America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, my friends, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. I'll tell you somebody who isn't, Eric Swalwell. He's having a hell of a bad week, isn't he? Well, more information continues to come out every single day. And, as I've said a couple of times, my hope was that the takedown of Eric Swalwell wouldn't just stop with Eric Swalwell. That would inevitably cascade out, lead to the exposure of many other predators in Congress. And guys, I got to tell you, that's exactly what looks like happening. It also appears to be spreading out into the new media. Yeah, somebody mentioned something about Benny Johnson yesterday. It just might be something coming out about Benny Johnson. We're going to talk about that. Oh, Stephen Miller. I definitely have that Stephen Miller clip pulled up for everybody. My goodness. Also got an update for you on that poor woman in Georgia who was shot in the face, sexually assaulted, and then stabbed to death by a naturalized person from another country led in by the Biden administration. So many more things to talk about. Not all of them depressing, but some of them will probably give you dark clouds above your heads. So, without further ado, please do me a favor. Sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn. And we're going to be right back after this message from today's sponsor. Recently, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This isn't just government spending, it's a declaration of intent because America needs uranium, domestic uranium, and it needs it now. So here's the reality. The U.S. consumes over 50 million pounds of uranium every single year, but we produce less than 1 million pounds domestically. Obviously, that leaves America 98% dependent on foreign suppliers for our supply. It's a critical vulnerability for national security, power generation, and advanced weapons systems. With Russia controlling much of the global enrichment capacity and escalating tensions in Iran threatening nuclear supply, the stakes could not be higher, which is why the White House has made it crystal clear. America must develop its own supply chain. And this is where Kirkstone Metals comes in. They trade under KSM in Canada and KSMCF in the US. They've got decades of uranium and junior mining expertise, and Kirkstone's leadership team knows how to turn exploration projects into real value. But the question is, can they do it again? Kirkstone controls two 100% owned uranium projects strategically located in the Athabasca Basin. This is the richest uranium district on the planet. Same area, same world-class neighborhood, and at their flagship Key Lake project, drilling has already hit high-grade uranium right near the surface, but the team truly believes the real prize lies deep underground. So using a playbook based on the decade's biggest discoveries, they're hunting the massive source below. So let's talk about the Athabasca Basin. It's home to multi-billion-dollar names like NextGen Energy and Denison Mines, but the real upside, it's often the junior explorers that are operating right next door. The Athabasca Basin has delivered over 20% of the world's uranium discoveries, with an estimated $200 to $300 billion worth of uranium identified in the ground. And yet Kirkstone is still sitting at a market cap below $12 million. That's an enormous disconnect between what's found in this district and how some companies are valued today. On January 14th, the U.S. administration reinforced their commitment to domestic energy security, invoking Section 232 via an executive order. It's a formal declaration of resource independence, and it goes beyond support. It's a mandate. Energy security is now national security. And the U.S. government is deploying its full fiscal and regulatory tools to secure the nuclear fuel cycle in North America. Kirkstone Metals, trading as KSMCF in the U.S. and KSM in Canada, is strategically positioned to capitalize on this shift. Now, uranium prices have surged, and some analysts project prices could exceed $100 per pound by 2026 as demand outpaces supply. Federal momentum has already begun to translate into dollars on the ground, including billions in planned funding for domestic uranium enrichment capacity. The sector is entering one of its most active drilling seasons in years, and with its flagship drill program approved, Kirkstone has exploration underway, and they're advancing with a focus on execution. Some companies operating in the district are valued at over $10 billion, and with the U.S. pushing for domestic uranium, Kirkstone could potentially become a leading beneficiary of the reshoring mandate. So if you want to learn more about this critical mineral story and about a team that has delivered big results in the past, check out the link in the description. And a very special thanks to Kirkstone Metals for making today's video possible. All right, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. A couple of quick thank yous I need to give over here on Pilled. First of all, thank you to Filter Dog, who says, bad week for Swalwell. Also, Bumblebee says that, did you know that your earlobes line up directly with your nipples? I don't think that's the case. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if I didn't have my headphones on, I'd be able to check better. But I too wondered how many people actually checked at that moment to see if that was the case. Darla, also over on Pilled, says, good afternoon, Zach. Swalwell brought it to himself. Yes, he did. Karma is calling. Moon Baby says, what up, family? I'm good to see you, Moon Baby. And Sulfanol, dropping some shades, says, what's up, Zach and chat? Thank you so much. And Miller Biz, I just realized I forgot to say happy Easter to you as well. You sent me an email, and I didn't even respond to it because it was Easter, and I was trying not to work, and I meant to respond the next day. But they say red pill news is the best. That is not my opinion. It's a simple fact. Wake up and smell the coffee, people. Thank you so much. That is high praise. I appreciate it. Eleanor 2000, who I had an awesome time hanging out with this weekend at Gart in Nashville, who says, wonderful to meet you in Nashville, Zach. Thank you for your wonderful positive spirit. Here's a little leftover after paying taxes. Thank you for that, Eleanor. I appreciate you. Eden's Refuge says, hey, Zach and chat, say prayers for Northwest Ohio friends. We had tornado sirens going off. Missed us and missed the hubby's job site. Haven't heard if it touched down. We will definitely keep you and Northwest Ohio in our prayers. There is also somebody else I would like you to keep in your prayers, and that is the poor woman who lost her life in Atlanta this past week. Her name is Lauren Bullis. I told you about her yesterday, but we now have a little bit more information about who she is, and it is a tragically ironic situation because Lauren was actually an employee of the Department of Homeland Security, and the man who brutally shot, stabbed, and sexually assaulted her, Olu Katakadlinen Adon Abel. He's a 26-year-old man. He was born in the United Kingdom. And yes, he was naturalized by the Biden administration back in 2022. Now, Mark Wayne Mullen, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, put this information out. I saw this morning. He said, since President Trump took office, USCIS has implemented measures to ensure individuals with criminal histories and who otherwise lack good moral character do not attain citizenship. That is highly relevant because he possesses a criminal record prior to coming to the United States. And shockingly, that included convictions for sexual battery, battery against a police officer, obstruction, and assault with a deadly weapon, not to mention vandalism. And now he stands accused of murdering a DHS employee, Lauren Bullis, shot her, stabbed her, sexually assaulted her while she was walking her dog. He also killed another woman. This woman, however, is unidentified. He shot her outside of a Checkers, which is a fast food joint. And then he randomly shot and killed a homeless man outside of a Kroger in Brookhaven. This insane immigrant from the United Kingdom went on a killing spree in one day, and it wasn't the first time that he had done things just like this. He finishes the statement by saying, these acts of pure evil have devastated our department, and my prayers are with the victims and the families. Truly, truly disgusting, because it was a situation that never needed to happen in the first place. So let's take a look at this. The man behind this brutal killing spree of seeming random lawlessness and heinous acts in DeKalb County, Georgia, is a national from the United Kingdom. He wasn't just granted American citizenship. He was fast-tracked into American citizenship during Joe Biden's regime back in 2022. So he was arrested after carrying out those vicious early morning shootings where he killed 3 different people in 3 different locations. All of it occurred on Monday the 13th. He's now facing 2 counts of aggravated murder, aggravated assault, and then those multiple weapons charges. So first, he shot that woman in front of the Checkers. Then he hunted down and brutally shot, stabbed, and sexually assaulted Lauren Bullis, who was 40 years old when she passed, just walking her dog through a quiet neighborhood, probably thought she was totally safe. She was an employee at the Department of Homeland Security. She worked in the office of the Inspector General. I'd actually like to know what exactly she was working on inside the office of the Inspector General. That may be relevant. He also opened fire on that homeless man in the shopping center. And I'm sorry, that man is not dead, but he is currently critically injured. Adon Abel was living in Atlanta, and you have to ask yourself, was that firearm legal that he actually used to kill these people? The killing spree began at approximately 1:59 a.m. when Brookhaven officers responded to the first shooting. That was at the Cherokee Plaza Shopping Center. Upon arrival, they located that homeless man, the 49-year-old man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was then transported to a local hospital for treatment, still in critical condition. Now, the Brookhaven Police Department have something called a plugged-in camera network. I can only imagine that's something similar to like a flock camera system. And they used that to apparently quickly identify the shooter after developing several leads. So earlier today, Adon Abel was taken into custody without incident. And further investigation revealed that he was also responsible for the other shootings we've also mentioned. There also is a current ongoing investigation to see if he can be connected to any other senseless killings in DeKalb County or in any of the other locations surrounding that. But what is most disturbing is his prior record of sexual assault, sexual battery, assault on a police officer. All of these things should have made him ineligible to become a citizen of the United States. And you think about how many people do this the right way, come to the United States of America, have real skills, have marketable talents that they can use to help elevate the United States of America. And those people don't get fast-tracked. Those people end up remaining in the sort of green card holding pattern for many, many years. But yet we have animals like this, people who never should have been allowed in our country in any respect, and they're just fast-tracked into citizenship. It is kind of mind-boggling. So Matt Van Swol, which was the first place that I saw this reported, he said, it took me a few hours, but I was able to get access to the case files for Abel's previous sexual battery case. This, on record, took place in Savannah, Georgia, and as a result of that case, he was actually banished from the entire city of Savannah, Georgia. Here is the timeline. So, wasn't just 1, wasn't just 2, wasn't even 3. Abel assaulted 4 different women in the span of several hours. 4 victims, 4 counts of sexual battery, all in Chatham County in April of last year. Police tried to arrest him. Of course, he resisted, and then they added that obstruction charge on top of everything else. Here's the other thing. When he got to trial, the prosecutor had completely dropped the obstruction charge. That wasn't there. And then his attorney, Mr. Foster, got all 4 of the sexual battery counts handled under what's called the Georgia First Offender Act, which meant that if he completed probation, the whole thing would essentially just disappear from his record. He was sentenced to 48 months, and then the judge suspended most of it. He only ended up serving 120 days in prison all told. That's only 30 days per victim. He never had to pay any fines. He had 0 restitution that he had to pay to these women that he had sexually assaulted. The court, however, did order psychosexual evaluation and required that he follow whatever treatment came with it. What was that treatment? Mandated mental health counseling, and they banned him from the entire city of Savannah, Georgia for 4 years. They explicitly prohibited him from owning or possessing any type of firearm. So the fact that he used a firearm in the commission of these most recent crimes certainly is mystifying. He signed that probation agreement on June 7th of last year, and then 7 months later, got a gun, murdered 2 women, and then shot a homeless dude in the stomach in the middle of a parking lot of a grocery store. So really, really frustrating story. This man never should have been allowed into the United States. Does anybody here know if Georgia has the death penalty? I'm pretty sure they do. And I'm always in favor of the death penalty because the only thing that, in my book, is a just punishment for taking the life of someone else is having your life taken. And I would also offer up, I think that the victims of the families, if they wanted, I think that they should have the option to push the button, pull the trigger, or flip the switch, whatever method of capital punishment is used. I mean, heck, in a situation like this where you've got multiple families, multiple victims, you could have a wall with 6 switches on it. Everybody flips the switch at the exact same time, and nobody knows who it was that actually gave the final kickoff to that man. Anyways, but the judge and the prosecutor in this original case in Savannah, Georgia, I sincerely hope that there is going to be some type of action in the state of Georgia to deal with them, as we have seen beginning to happen in other states like down here in Florida. Certainly tragic, totally avoidable, did not need to happen. I'm not going to stop there, though. We're going to call out another judge. This time, a judge in Charlotte, North Carolina. Her name is Judge, gosh, I guess I don't have her name. I could have sworn that she was named here. Anyways, maybe they say it in the clip. That's why I'm thinking it. Anyways, so she was overseeing a bond hearing for a Tren de Aragua gang member, a Venezuelan, probably here illegally, certainly known to have committed violent crimes in the past. In this instance, his bond was set initially at $1 million. She lowered it to $25,000. Now, if anybody doesn't know how the bond system works, you basically have to pay 10%. So a $1 million bond would be, $100,000, and a $25,000 bond would be $2,500. It's a lot easier to get out of jail on bond that way. Now, she never gave any justification as to why she was lowering his bond. But let me tell you what he did. He was charged after he fired a gun. So his pregnant wife, she was 7 months pregnant. She attempted to wrestle the gun away from him to stop him from firing the gun again. And then, wouldn't you know it, in the process of wrestling that gun away, the gun discharged again. And this time, the bullet entered her stomach and it killed her 7-month-old baby. So this man is guilty of murdering a child in the womb. $1 million, in my estimation, was not enough to begin with. So who the hell is this judge lowering his bond to $25,000? You can't be angry enough.
Officers arrested Luis Marcano, saying that he had fired that gun while under the influence of alcohol and narcotics. Investigators say his wife tried to wrestle the gun away from him and then accidentally shot herself in the stomach. Her 7-month-old fetus was killed. Right now, Marcano has a $1 million bond. We're working to find out more about that woman's condition tonight. Officers arrested
7-month-old. It was a baby, you prick. It was a baby in her belly, and it got shot and died because of this son of a bitch. There's no other way to put it. And for anybody to try to downplay it, it just pisses me off to no end. All right. Hazel Kitty says, who is controlling these judges? These judges are brainwashed. I don't even necessarily think anybody is directly controlling them. I think that they become judges. I think they initially become lawyers, then they become judges because they hate the United States of America. They want to destroy the United States of America, and they know that by putting these criminals back on the streets, they're going to get closer to their goal that way. So I don't think anybody necessarily is controlling them. I just think that they're terrible people, and I think that there's a lot of them. You know, I mean, it's like you look at politics. Sure, there's definitely people being controlled in politics, but there's also just a lot of narcissistic psychopaths that are in politics. Maybe they don't even care they're being controlled. But either way, we've got people who end up going into positions that they know they're going to be able to use to get their rocks off. I'm sure this woman, this judge, she loved the idea that she was putting a gang member back out onto the street who had just shot a 7-month-old baby. Yeah, they need to be punished. They need to do something about this in North Carolina. But, of course, that's an issue for the North Carolina state legislature. Hopefully somebody is paying attention because this shit keeps happening. All right, now, I'm going to tell you another story. This one, we're jumping over to Michigan. I saw we had a couple of other fellow Michiganders in the chat earlier. In Dearborn, a 26-year-old man by the name of Audi Mughali al-Saidi. He was just federally charged because the FBI linked him to exactly 35,002 files of child sexual abuse material. So apparently, Mr. al-Saidi was downloading this disgusting material on BitTorrent. When the agents showed up, he said, "I'm just downloading videos, my friend. Sir, I'm just downloading videos." Instead, they looked onto his computer and they found a folder that was labeled PTHC. Now, I didn't know what that meant, and turns out it means preteen hardcore. He had another folder that was labeled incest and abuse. Even more disgusting as these people tend to be, there were images of infants and toddlers that were being violently and horrifically raped by adults. There were hundreds of illegal files that were also discovered on his phone and his computer. There were deleted ones that he had tried to get rid of when he realized that the FBI was coming to his house. This happened in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, as we've probably talked about before, has long been a repository for immigrants coming from the Middle East. And, of course, in Dearborn, they've got like an all-Muslim city council and Muslim mayor. Now, I don't have a problem with Muslims in general. I was in Dearborn plenty of times, and it wasn't crazy when I was a kid. But it seems like everybody has gotten more radicalized the further into the future you go. So let's take a look. I want to show you guys this face, because if you live in Michigan and you see him on the street, well... maybe you want to walk to the other side.
New tonight, a Metro Detroit man facing federal charges, and what investigators found on his devices is disturbing. You know, this has been one of the top stories this afternoon on clickondetroit.com. Investigators with FBI Detroit uncovered an enormous stash of suspected child sexually abusive material, all linked to one Dearborn man.
And they say the disturbing discovery includes tens of thousands of files with sexually explicit content. Let's bring in Local 4 investigator Erica Erickson with more on how the feds caught up to him.
Yeah, Priya and Demand, I'm talking about Audi al-Saidi. And his name's actually spelled differently in a couple of court documents.
This is another thing that I notice these immigrants will do. They will spell their name differently depending on what it is they're signing it on. And it also, as a result of it, makes it difficult to track down their records, or maybe it gets them multiple IDs. We've talked about this specifically in Michigan, in the greater Metro Detroit area, as it related to people registering to vote multiple times.
He's from Dearborn, and the FBI is accusing him of receiving, distributing, and possessing a massive amount of sexually abusive material involving real children. Now, according to this federal complaint, the feds say they uncovered more than 35,000 downloadable files deemed of investigative interest and potentially containing abusive material involving children, some as young as infants. Now, the investigation into al-Saidi beginning in February after agents began using an undercover computer to log into a peer-to-peer file sharing network where users can anonymously share images and videos. That's where the feds say they identified a device and IP address tied to thousands of files that digital footprints were consistent with child sexually abusive material. They also say a computer using that same IP address shared dozens of files back in August of 2025, also sexually exploiting children. The feds then tracing the devices to a home in Dearborn. And when they showed up April 2nd, they say not only was al-Saidi inside, he allegedly told agents he was familiar with the file sharing network and used it to download movies. Again, inside, agents seizing his phone and computer, then finding hundreds of illegal images along with deleted files with more abusive material, they say. Al-Saidi has been given a $10,000 bond.
$10,000 bond. That's it? I mean, at least he's on home detainment with a GPS. At least he's banned from using the internet. Anybody here want to bet how many burner phones he might have had stuffed up in the ceiling?
He's been ordered to home detention with the GPS tether. He also cannot use the internet or have any contact with children.
Absolutely disgusting. I think that this is actually a good time to very briefly bring up the next sponsor of the show. This will be quick, you guys. It's a great message. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to shoot with the same precision tech that's used by U.S. Special Forces? If you have, I've got good news for you, because after years of research and development, MCG Tactical just dropped something incredible. It's called the Stinger Combat Sight. Now, this isn't going to be your average red dot. It uses holographic technology. At one time, this was really reserved for elite military and law enforcement, and the Stinger delivers crystal clear precision. It's so accurate you could hit a dime at 300 yards without even trying. This is the exact same type of level of technology that's used by the pros. Here is the twist, though. Most sites like this are going to go for like $600 or more, and people will happily pay it. But right now, through this exclusive deal with MCG Tactical, you can get this mil-spec sight for under $200. And it gets even better, because for my listeners, you're actually going to get 67% off that, and they're also going to cover shipping. So you can scan that QR code that you see on your screen, or you can go direct to mcgtac.com/redpill to get yours today. The only catch, the supply is tight. These things are already flying off the shelves. So if you want a site that's built for the best, now's your shot. Grab yours before they have to shut down orders. Thank you very much to the good folks over there at MCG Tech. And I just thought that it was totally appropriate to talk about it at that time. Yes, I have actually tried the red dot, and I am a member of my local shooting club, and I was able to dial it right in. Didn't have any problems. All right, continuing. We got to continue talking about the situation with immigration, because it turns out that the U.S. House of Representatives today was planning on voting on a Democrat-sponsored bill. This bill would give temporary protected status to all Haitians who are in the United States. Now, doesn't draw a distinction between those who are here legally or who are here illegally. But these are the same group of people that President Trump had already ended their temporary protected status. So technically, every single one of them that is here under their former TPS status, they are now here illegally. So you can check out the information about this, but we've already actually had the vote. And so we were going to go and just talk about it right off the bat. Look at this. 6 House Republicans actually joined with the Democrats to protect these Haitian migrants. The vote was 219 to 209. So, as I said, this gives status to the Haitians that are here that had their TPS removed by President Trump. This is also the same status of people that were just involved in another horrific and senseless slaying down here in my home state of Florida. A Haitian migrant who, as far as I know, was set to be removed because they were previously on temporary protected status, approached an American woman who was leaving a gas station, ran up to her with a hammer in his hand, and then proceeded to beat her face in and killed her horrifically in front of the gas station. The whole thing was caught on camera. Now, Tim Burchett said a Democrat motion to provide for consideration that legal immigrant status be given to Haitians. It provides legal immigrant status to Haitians who are already in the United States. So that means illegal Haitians here, and we're now going to allow them to stay. And several Republicans, you can look them up, who they were. I'm going to tell you who they were. You can pretty much guess, but go ahead and look them up anyways. It's unbelievable. That's what we've become. We got to get this mess cleaned up here. So all of the people who voted for this are the same people who actually sponsored the Dignidad Act. You've got Salazar, Bacon, Fitzpatrick, Jimenez, Lawler, and Malliotakis. Now, this is not stating that this will become law. This is the vote to move it out of committee, and then there will be a final vote in the House. But even barring that, it has to be sent to the Senate, and then it has to be approved in the Senate for it to be sent to President Trump's desk so that he could sign it and make it law. Now, I don't want anybody to worry about that. President Trump is not going to sign this bill. He is not going to make it law. He's made it very clear where he stands on Haitians explicitly, because he withdrew their TPS status. He doesn't want them here. Send them home. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats, all of that stuff. But even worse than that, the Department of Homeland Security also put out this little bit of factoid right here. What if I told you that illegal immigrants every single year cost you and I, each American taxpayer, nearly $8,776? That's right. We, each and every one of us individually, through the money that is spent on these illegal aliens, we essentially are billed nearly $8,800. And this is one of the huge reasons that we got to make sure these people are not allowed to stay here. Now, of course, DHS is still working. ICE is still working. CBP is still working. And we are still getting these people out of this country. We don't want them here. They shouldn't be here. Just because they're here, they should not be rewarded. So again, this bill will have to move fully through the House with one more vote. It will have to be approved and signed on in the Senate, and then President Trump would have to sign it to become law. But he's not going to. If by some strange reason it ends up making it to his desk, he undoubtedly will veto it. Now, I need to also say thank you very much to Sean S. Renee, Sean's Renee, or maybe it's Renee's girlfriend, Sean, Renee's wife, Sean. Or no, Renee is Sean's wife. Yes. Okay. Anyway, either way, she says, yes, this is the first time I've heard anyone else say that victims should be able to carry out that punishment. I've said this for years. No corrections officers would have to live with the possible regret. I think it's a great idea. I think it makes total sense. I think it would give a real sense of justice and completion to the people who have had their loved ones taken away from them by monsters like those we've described today. AOB 22 says vigilante justice is going to gain in popularity. I have to be honest, I'm surprised it hasn't gotten more popular as we move further and further down the road. Darla says POTUS was right as usual. The world sent their insane and criminals to the USA, and Biden openly welcomed them. God help us all. Darla also says make wood chippers great again. The evil has to stop. Yes, it absolutely needs to stop. All right, now let's continue talking about illegal aliens and the receipt of benefits. Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, spoke in an open congressional hearing earlier today. He was being asked about the many, many, many illegal aliens and unqualified people who were previously receiving medical benefits and how they were removed. This Democrat ranking member on the committee, Representative Boyle, he thought that he was going to get Russ Vought in a gotcha moment, but Russ is so calm, cool, and collected. He was not going to allow himself to be hoodwinked. Take a listen.
It eliminates health care coverage for more than 15 million Americans, according to the CBO. The Kaiser Family Foundation says there's actually more than 17 million Americans who will lose their health care. Are they really all, according to you? Really? You're going to sit here with a straight face and say they're all illegals, they were all defrauding the system? That's actually your position?
Yes. With regard to the people that have lost that.
I mean, that's laughable. I'm sorry, I'll give you a chance to respond.
You had a number of issues with regard to your comments there.
Wait, let me
number one.
Sorry, reclaiming my time. I just want to be clear. I'm citing, we acknowledge, the CBO figure. That's where I'm getting the 15 million from, and the Kaiser Family Foundation says 17 million. You're saying none of them are legitimately on this, even though we had one of them actually testify before us in this committee.
I didn't say all of them are illegals. I said there's also the benefit of people returning to the workforce because they are able-bodied individuals, or they should not have been on the system regardless because of the inability to address fraud in the aftermath of the—
Okay, so they're all either illegals or defrauding the system.
Yes.
Well, that's certainly not a provocative statement that we have fraud all over the country, is it, Mr. Ranking Member?
Why I imagine there are fraud and
That's exactly what's happening, Mr. Boyle. illegal aliens were on the rolls. Illegal aliens were receiving benefits. Illegal aliens were defrauding the American people. And to be frank, plenty of American citizens were also defrauding the American people. The only Americans that have been released from these programs are Americans who have the able-bodied ability to work and to take care of themselves. Welfare is not meant to be a lifestyle. These systems of containment are meant to merely help people in their times of need. It is not meant to be a system by which the government of the United States takes care of you, your children, and buys you as much Cheetos and Coke as you want to eat and drink. Also, I saw somebody pissed off over on YouTube. No one is banning words. No one is censoring anybody. Nobody is even, blocking you from saying anything. But YouTube routinely has AI that is always in the chat, which is going to stop certain chats from going through. It even does it to me, and I'm the owner of the channel. So, maybe just, get a little bit of information before you go cocking off at the mouth. Bowler Jack Bryan says, happy voluntary tax day. Red Pill News is the best. Thank you for that, friend. I do appreciate you. All right. I really do like Russ Vaught. I think he's a great guy. All right. Now, I also want to take you to some statistics coming from USCIS. Now, we talked about the dropping rate of people receiving various categories of visas. We've talked about the very, very, very reduced number of people who are coming and receiving asylum claims. We've talked about people being reduced from just immigrating naturally. So the USCIS has also successfully reduced the number of naturalizations down over 60% from their peak. So if we go back to the highest rate, we can look at April. Looks like April of 2025. That was the highest rate. About 70 to 80,000 a month were being accepted for naturalization. Now, in January of 2026, obviously we're a couple of months behind, the number was actually around 30,000. And you can see that the denial rate seems to be pretty steady throughout each and every one of these months. But over the course of the last 2 years, the number was rather high, people being approved for naturalization. Now, I'm not saying that every single person who becomes a naturalized American citizen doesn't deserve it, but I do not believe that there isn't a certain amount of people who get it who don't deserve it. As a perfect example, Mr. Adil Abdul, or whatever his name was, the psychopath from the UK who was raping and shooting women in the face, that guy never should have become a naturalized American citizen. I would love to see what those numbers were back in 2022, how many the Biden administration was simply allowing. I'd also, even more interestingly, love to see the number of denials. There were probably relatively few denials at that time. All right, so we were basically naturalizing 1 million people a year, every year, with a 95% approval rate. And every single time we get statistics coming out about immigration, naturalization, people coming from other countries, it's just more and more enraging. Now, here is another crazy case, this one from ICE. The woman that you see on screen here is a sex trafficker. And she was the leader of a Massachusetts-based sex trafficking ring. She pled guilty to this role in sex trafficking. She admitted to sex trafficking 2 children and 1 adult. There was an investigation by ICE and Homeland Security Investigations of New England. Her name is Christy Parker. Christy is actually a U.S. citizen. She's also known as Lula. Now, she did the typical things that you would expect from a pimp or a madam. She would physically beat. She would use threats of coercion. She would intimidate. She would force her victims to remain awake. She would also starve them of food, anything that she could do to coerce these people into engaging in repeated acts of commercial sex victimization. And it was all around Fall River, Massachusetts. She even threatened to have the authorities take the adult victim's toddler away from her. Now, ICE says, although many Americans think that ICE's work is strictly immigration related, ICE also enforces over 400 federal laws and statutes. And most importantly, ending human trafficking is one of the agency's most important missions. So effectively, what the Democrats are doing right now is stating that it's better to allow human trafficking in the United States than it is to fund an agency like ICE. I don't know that they even think about it like that, but that's basically the sum total of their argument. Hey, would you blow me too? Says illegals don't cost me anything. Paying taxes is totally voluntary. Look up Steve Miller, IRS on YouTube. So I know exactly what you're saying, and I've got my own thoughts on taxes. We've talked about it before. However, the money is not directly coming out of the taxes that some people pay to the United States government. There is a sum total financial burden that is put onto the citizens of the United States that comes in the form of many different things. And that includes the price you pay for certain items, because those things that are given for free to these illegal aliens are being paid for in some manner. So you better believe that the money comes out of your pocket, whether you're paying it to the IRS or you're paying it in some other fashion. There's also another guy that I have found recently, Dr. Common Sense, I think his name is. I would really like to try to interview this guy, because he put out a video actually 2 years ago, I want to say in the summer of 2024, and it just showed up in my feed. And he made the most understandably cohesive argument as to what the actual laws were surrounding the American tax code. And I would love to have him on the show. Yes, total cost to society. Thank you, Shibarista. It's a more eloquent way of putting it. Okay, now, take a look at this. I said earlier, President Trump is not going to sign any kind of amnesty bill. There is no possible way that that's going to happen. And here is an illustration of that. If we look at Texas, all right, right now it's estimated there are 2.9 million illegal aliens in Texas. If you believe in the election system, in 2024, President Trump's margin of victory in the state of Texas was 1.5 million votes. In the state of Florida, they are estimated to have 1.5 million illegals here. President Trump's margin was 1.4 million votes. In Georgia, estimated total of 650,000 illegal aliens. President Trump's margin of victory, 115,000 votes. North Carolina, 520,000 illegals. Margin of victory, 180,000. In Arizona, 425,000 illegals. President Trump's margin of victory, 187,000. Pennsylvania, 300,000 illegals, a victory margin of 121,000. In Nevada, 310,000 illegals, a margin of victory of only 46,000. In Michigan, 180,000 illegals, margin of victory was 80,000. And then finally, in Wisconsin, 130,000 illegals with 29,000 vote margin of victory. Zach, please look up Joe Bannister. He will do your show. I will look him up. I'm very selective about the people that I have on the show, even if they want to do the show. I get people asking me if they can come on the show all the time. I'm really not doing interviews anymore. So, in order for me to do an interview, it's really got to resonate with me. So can somebody send me, Barrow, if you can send me an email about Joe Bannister, maybe send me his channel and stuff like that. There's a lot of people out there that I've been sent to interview specifically on taxes, but 9 times out of 10, when I research them, they've got people who have used their methods and then they end up in prison. And so I don't want to put you guys in danger. But definitely, yes, America Freedom to Fascism is actually the first time that I really started thinking about the tax system. Definitely seen it. Everybody here needs to watch it. It's free on YouTube. And I keep saying, I'm going to watch America Freedom to Fascism on Rumble Premium, in my members stream. So maybe we'll do that on Sunday. How about that? On Sunday, I won't play video games. We will watch America Freedom to Fascism, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. All right, you guys. I have promised that that's what we're going to do. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, moving on from that, I feel like that makes everything pretty clear. President Trump knows what's going on. He knows exactly why rhinos and the Democrats are attempting to codify these illegal aliens We do not need this. America would not survive it. If our election system is fake right now, it's going to be even worse if that happens. All right. Now, I think we have one more story about the American legal system. This actually does have a happier ending than some of the other ones, but a woman in Nebraska kidnapped a 3-year-old boy from a Walmart. He was a white child. She was not a white woman. She was a brown woman. I don't know what race she was. But she obviously was very sick. She had pink hair. She could be any liberal that you see at any of these events. She stole a knife. She stole the 3-year-old child, kidnapped him at knife point, and then right in front of the police, she stabbed this little boy in the face, and then, of course, they killed her. The only thing that did not go well, I have never seen Dr. Scott Young, so I don't know anything about him. The only thing that didn't happen was that this woman didn't get shot quick enough. I'm going to show you the still frames from the actual event itself. It's harrowing, but I'm not going to show you the kid getting stabbed. Don't worry about that. All right, so this took place in Omaha. This little 3-year-old boy, Kyler, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Cyler. I don't think that's really how you spell Kyler. I don't even know if I've ever heard the name Kyler before, but either way, that's what they say his name was. Yesterday morning, she kidnapped him, and then she was shot shortly after that when the police from Omaha showed up. And the suspect was a 31-year-old woman. Of course, she is totally dead now. And they had no choice but to shoot her. I mean, she was completely ignoring their commands to drop the knife. She actively tried to hurt this child. This kid's probably going to have a giant slash across his face for the rest of his life. It's probably going to be a cool-looking scar, but not a very fun story to tell. All right, so her name is Guzman. Miss Guzman. What is her full name? I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. She's dead anyways. Not going to be worrying about her anymore in the future. So the child was with one of his parents. This woman takes a knife out of a package and then threatens the guardian of the child, steals him, brings him out into the parking lot, basically kidnapping. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. And then by the time the officers got there, it got pretty heated. She refused to drop the knife. She slashed the little boy across the face, and the officers shot her and ended the threat right there. I couldn't believe it when I saw this picture. I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, I can't believe this woman has that knife this close to this child, and the police have not already shot her. Thank you very much to BDR 1776. I don't know what we are all making a big deal about Eric Swalwell when we know Congress has a slush fund of these types of things. Hopefully Swalwell does the right thing and puts them all. Okay, so I'll tell you what the big deal is. It's about the pressure of these people who have committed heinous acts like Eric Swalwell of feeling like they have to come forward or they're going to be exposed, or for the people who are not participating in these things to come forward and expose this stuff. And that's actually exactly what's happening. So Eric Swalwell is merely the man who is currently being exposed. And that's why I keep talking about everybody else who is being exposed right alongside of him. And I will continue to talk about every single one of these people as we expose them and get them the hell out of Congress. So here she is preparing to stab this poor innocent little child. The Omaha Police Department's officer-involved investigations team is investigating an incident that occurred Tuesday morning, leaving one woman dead and a child injured. Uniformed Patrol Bureau officers responded to Walmart at 1606 South 72nd Street for a nature unknown emergency at 9:13 a.m. Initial information provided to 911 was from a female caller requesting police assistance. This female stopped providing information to the call taker. An additional 911 caller indicated there was a woman armed with a large kitchen knife with a young child. A 2-officer patrol unit arrived at the location where the officers immediately exited their cruiser to approach the armed woman. Nomi Guzman, that's her name, Nomi Guzman, 31 years old. She was near the southern parking lot entry, standing by a shopping cart where the 3-year-old boy was inside. Miss Guzman was making multiple threats with a knife. They should have shot her right then and there as soon as they got out of that vehicle. Officers gave multiple verbal commands for Miss Guzman to drop the knife. She refused to drop the weapon, and then she cut the boy, and the 2 patrol officers fired their service weapons, striking her. The child's guardian, along with a babysitter, immediately removed the child from the cart and rendered aid to him. Officers began life-saving measures on Miss Guzman. However, she was pronounced dead at the scene. The boy was taken to Children's Hospital by Omaha Fire Department medics for treatment. His injuries are non-life-threatening. However, the psychological impact of this event is most likely going to haunt him for the rest of his life. Investigators later determined through store surveillance footage that Ms. Guzman had shoplifted the knife from inside the store. She then approached the child and guardian in a shopping aisle, brandished the knife, forced the guardian to walk ahead of the cart while the child remained inside. Ms. Guzman directed them through the store and into the parking lot. Officers arrived shortly after. Ms. Guzman, the guardian, and the child exited the store and began walking east towards the parking entrance. The responding officer acted with professionalism, hoorah, good to see ya, and direct action to intervene and save a child's life. That is the Omaha Police Chief Todd Scamander. The community can be reassured in knowing that Omaha police officers stand ready to act with courage and decisiveness in the most serious situations to protect the public. Omaha Mayor John W. Ewing Jr. thanked police for quick action that prevented a larger tragedy. I am grateful to the department's professionalism and transparency. The investigation remains ongoing. Omaha police officers involved investigations team is being assisted by investigators from the Nebraska State Patrol, Douglas and Sarpy County Sheriff's Office. There is a fundraising campaign. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's to pay for the child's medical bills and recovery. And, of course, we're going to find out this woman shouldn't have been out on the street. Oh, that poor kid. So they've raised almost $16,000 for him so far. God, his dad was at a job interview when the situation occurred. He was hoping to secure new employment for the family. However, due to Kyler's condition and the need for his father to be by his side during recovery and therapy, employment will have to wait. The unexpected turn has created financial stress at home, and his father must focus on healing his son rather than work. They don't say anything about his mother. I'm wondering if his mother is not in the picture. Yeah, they just mentioned Kyler and his dad. Interesting. All right. Well, I hope that I hope this kid is going to be okay. I mean, really, really sad. They use GoFundMe, but that's a commie website. I wish they hadn't used GoFundMe, but I'll share the GoFundMe either way, because if you guys want to help out, then there you go. You can. Poor kid. And of course, I realize that, you may not want to because you don't know these people, and that's totally fair right now. All right. So here is the rest of the story. This woman never should have been on the streets in the first place. We now learn that Ms. Guzman had a disturbing history of violent behavior, which included attacking her own father with a knife, a different knife. Even worse than that, she set her dad's house on fire. She also broke into a Catholic church's rectory while the priest was barricaded inside. And despite the severity of those crimes, the judge who released her on a personal recognizance bond is named Judge Russell Durr. Judge Russell Durr, D-E-R, Omaha, Nebraska Judge Russell Durr. Now, following her initial release, subsequent legal proceedings, the court formally determined her mental state. She was found not guilty, not responsible, for reasons of insanity, for the felonies of assault, arson, burglary, and criminal mischief. So then the question is, why didn't they put her into a mental hospital? If you can commit heinous, violent acts like that, you almost kill somebody, you break into a church, you set your dad's house on fire, you probably need to be inside a mental institution. I mean, to just say somebody is not guilty by reason of insanity and then put them back out on the streets where they can continue to do insane things, that right there is the definition of insanity. I think Judge Russell Durr is probably insane himself. So instead of prison, the judge assigned her to a community-based treatment plan. This was back in 2025. That put her in outpatient therapy and living with her family. Oh, the same family she just tried to kill and burn their house down? She was scheduled for an annual court review on June 12th of this year. They were going to reevaluate her progress, but obviously that's not going to happen now because she's totally dead. Anyways, I'm surprised there wasn't somebody else there in the Walmart that maybe would have been carrying or something like that. Either way, let me say thank you very much to my good friend ZBM. He says there are thousands of illegals and undocumented workers here in Idaho. I'm pretty sure I've seen some of them in my tiny town as well last year. So crazy. Never would have thought I'd see them in small town America. The reason you see them in small town America is because they filled up big town America and they had to start pushing them out to the outskirts. They want those people to be breeding like rats or cockroaches or fleas. And the more places they put them, the more places they're going to end up infesting. Oh, good Lord. Okay. Also, thank you so much to my good friend Lee Walden. He says, ahoy, Zach, Miss Lisa, and crew. I know the first EO the boss signed for child and human trafficking first action was to eliminate. That's what this shit is about. I saw the report. She is baby Jessica saved from well years ago. So I don't know what you mean about baby Jessica, but I actually, baby Jessica's dad follows me on X. I know she's okay. I mean, she's an adult and she's on her, she's doing her thing. She's got a family and all that stuff. But if there's something specific, like, is there a news story about baby Jessica? Anyways, I remember that distinctly because that little kid fell down in a well and they got her out. It was all over the news. It was like the first story that I remember being like 24-hour news coverage. All right, now, a palate cleanser. Now that I've told you how effed up the criminal justice system is in the United States, we are going to check in with President Trump. This is AI. I know this is AI. Everybody knows this is AI. But this is apparently a late night ad for President Trump's doctor's clinic. Take a listen. This is all about that meme that he posted where he said, I thought I was posting myself as a doctor. I was healing people. I heal a lot of people. I've healed a lot of people.
Are you suffering from a serious life-threatening illness? Has your doctor told you you're probably going to die? My name is Dr. Donald Trump, and I have helped millions of patients with conditions just like yours. Cancer, heart disease, ALS, you name it. Conditions your doctor said were untreatable. I've seen them all, and I fixed them all. I use an advanced technique that the cheating medical establishment don't want you to know about. The results are, frankly, incredible. Nobody gets results like this. They're the greatest results.
They gave me 6 weeks to live, but then I called the hotline and was healed entirely through the phone.
I was clinically brain dead, and my wife was about to pull the plug when the doctor saved my life.
If you or someone you love is suffering, don't wait. Don't let the corrupt medical establishment tell you what's possible. Call 1-900-NOT-JESUS today. Let's make your health great again. Are you suffering?
Oh, let's make your health great again. I love it. It's so good. So good. Oh, man. All right. And I see, unfortunately, poor baby Jessica, who's obviously an adult now, seems to have been arrested in a domestic disturbance. Assault charge after domestic disturbance. Baby Jessica McClure Morales was widely known as Baby Jessica after her rescue from a deep well in 1987 that captivated the world. Oh, that poor kid. I think they had to, like, amputate her foot as well. Anyways, let's see what happened. So deputies with the Midland County Sheriff's Office responded to her residence around 10 p.m. She was taken into custody at the scene, charged with assault causing bodily injury involving family violence. So this obviously seems like maybe she might have gotten into it with her husband. She was later released after posting bond. Officials have not given specifics about what happened yet. Okay. So, yes, the story is, unfortunately, poor baby Jessica seems to have gotten into a fight with her husband. Who knows exactly what happened? And hopefully everything will work out for her. All right. Denise Ann, good to see you, hun. She says, I also saw something about baby Jessica now recently being arrested for something. I didn't get to look into it. I was at work, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. So yeah, unfortunately, that looks like all we know. Baby Jessica is, she got into an argument with her husband, and that is the story for right now. We'll find out more, and we'll report at that time. All right, you guys. Let me just real briefly refresh my screen over here. And let's continue. So, Judge Jeanine Pirro, she and her office at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office has, of course, been blocked by Judge Jeb Boasberg from further investigation of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell and the Fed have also refused to provide information. And Jerome Powell is also threatening to not leave when his term is up. Apparently, he says he can stick around for a little while, and you know how much that's going to piss off the president. So he's threatening to do so. Now, she and her prosecutors made a surprise visit to the Fed headquarters. However, those prosecutors were trespassed by Jerome Powell, and they were not allowed to enter the building. Now, this is not the first time an unannounced visit to the ongoing construction site at the Federal Reserve's headquarters has been made. President Trump had showed up previously, but this, of course, not being on the docket for the Fed was not something that the Fed was willing to allow to happen. And of course, the Fed is not a federal agency. They're not part of the United States government. All the more reason that we need to disband the Fed. So these two deputies of U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro spoke with several construction workers, and they were told that they would not be able to access the site without being pre-cleared, and they were given the contact information for legal staff at the Fed. So what are they even doing? If you haven't been paying attention, currently the Fed is in the middle of a $2.5 billion renovation. They are updating two historic office buildings, and Jerome Powell, the chair of the Fed, had testified previously about the time that this renovation has been going on, the scale, and most importantly, the budget overruns. Jerome Powell also testified to several specific things which appear to be less than truthful. You might even call them perjurious lies, because he was under oath and the truth of the matter was something completely different than the words he spoke when testifying in that session. So a Fed spokesperson, I almost said a Fed spokesperson declined to comment. Any construction project, Jeanine Pirro said, that has cost overruns of almost 80% over the original construction budget deserves some serious review. And these people are in charge of monetary policy of the United States of America. An outside lawyer for the Fed, Robert Hur, the same guy who did the investigation of Joe Biden, the same Robert Hur, the same special counsel that investigated Joe Biden's mental state? You gotta be shitting me. These people are so incestuous. It's like they have their deep state circle and they just keep a rotating cast of characters over and over and over again. Now, of course, Robert Hur, he's working for the Fed. He objected to the visit. He sent a letter to Judge Jeanine Pirro's office, and he pointed to a federal judge's decision, the aforementioned Jeb Boasberg, to throw out a pair of subpoenas that were issued to the central bank. If you'll remember, in that ruling, U.S. District Judge Jeb Boasberg concluded that the investigation appeared designed to harass and pressure Powell to bend to President Trump's desire for him to lower interest rates or step down as the central bank's leader. Well, of course, I personally would love to see interest rates lowered. I would also like to understand exactly why it is that these buildings at the Fed are going to cost 80% more than they were supposed to. I'd also like to know why the actions of the Federal Reserve continue to result in monetary policy that's objectively bad for the United States of America. I mean, Come on, who are you actually doing this job for? Anyways, should you wish to challenge that finding, the courts provide an avenue for you. It is not appropriate for you to try to circumvent it, former special counsel Robert Hur wrote. I ask that you commit not to seek to communicate with my client outside the presence of counsel. Hur said the prosecutors, Carlton Davis and Stephen Vandervelven, appeared without prior notice at the construction site where they asked for a tour and said they wanted to check on the progress of the renovation project. Let me also just say, when you are working with the money that belongs to the people of the United States of America, if you've got nothing to hide, there should be no problem here. I mean, it's not like the Fed doesn't have great lawyers and a whole bunch of money and also a bunch of prior public statements about the situation there. I think that simply having representatives of the Justice Department come on in and take a look. Hey, guys, just want to see how construction's going. Generally speaking, on construction sites, I mean, there's obviously a lot of places they could look inside this building. They could just give them a hard hat, give them a quick tour. Now, this flare-up raised some new questions about whether or not an investigation is continuing. But the same day that the confirmation process advanced for Kevin Warsh, which is President Trump's successor to Powell, it might seem that the representatives of Jeanine Pirro were perhaps going in there to see if they could get a little bit of information. Kevin Warsh is going to be President Trump's replacement for Jerome Powell. Now, the investigation has threatened to stall Warsh's confirmation beyond the end of Powell's term as Fed chair. That officially ends on May 15th. Noted cuck from North Carolina, Senator Tom Tillis, said that he would withhold support for any nominee until the criminal inquiry is resolved. How can it be resolved if the Fed chair refuses to comply with a lawful subpoena from the Department of Justice? The only thing Tom Tillis wants is for the Department of Justice to say, there's nothing to see here. It wants it to be business as usual. So on Tuesday, the Senate Banking Committee said that they were going to hold Warsh's confirmation hearing next week. This is taking place April 21st. In an interview with Fox Business, the panel's chairman, Senator Tim Scott, a Republican from South Carolina, predicted that Pirro's investigation would end within weeks, and that would clear the path for Warsh's confirmation. He was pressed over whether he knew if the investigation would end, and Scott said, I don't have any evidence of that, no. President Trump, of course, has continued to berate Jerome Powell over interest rates, and last month he praised Jeanine Pirro for having the courage to investigate the Fed. Nobody's ever done that before. Trump also, as I mentioned earlier, toured that construction site last summer, and afterwards he said he didn't want to second-guess cost overruns on two historic buildings that are undergoing a gut renovation. But President Trump in recent weeks has brought up his continued frustration with certain construction choices. He suggested the contractor on the job is probably one of the richest men in the country right now. Probably. Now, since she was appointed as U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro has emerged as a prosecutor who seems to be particularly eager to bring cases against the people who have harmed the United States of America and President Trump. And I have to say, that's why I love her. But not just people who are famous. Jeanine Pirro has also got a knack for simply bringing charges against criminals, because that's the only thing you're supposed to do when you are a prosecutor. Now, when the office of the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia had issued those subpoenas to the Fed in January, Jeanine Pirro called President Trump. She informed him of the development. And, of course, Jerome Powell completely ignored those subpoenas, which you're not allowed to do. Davis and Vandervelven, the lawyers who visited the Fed construction site, joined a special agent from the Criminal Investigations Unit of Jeanine Pirro's office, a man by the name of Matthew Fox Moles. Last year, Pirro directly hired Davis and Vandervelven. She wanted them to work as special counsels, and she has since assigned them some of her office's most politically sensitive cases, which include a failed effort to bring charges against 6 Democratic lawmakers, the so-called seditious 6, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. The problem is the District of Columbia. You cannot have justice against the deep state in the District of Columbia, because the grand jury is going to be chosen from that very deep state. The judges are all fantastically corrupt, and the district is so small, you're not going to get a rotating pool of jury members who, even if you could get an indictment, that would be willing to come back and deliver a guilty verdict, despite how strong the evidence is. Let me say thank you very much to Lee Walden again. He says, Zach, can we demand if a judge abuses their position, charge to them what a criminal charges? I'd like to see them go and serve double the sentence. As I've said before, I think that every single judge who is responsible for releasing a dangerous criminal that then goes on to victimize another person needlessly, obviously they should be charged. I just don't know I don't think that currently outside of Florida, there doesn't exist a statutory mechanism to do that. This would require something to be put into law. But, you know, in a sort of general sense, I definitely agree with you. Also, my good friend Freya and the boys, good to see you, buddy. He says, hello, Zach. I've been on the road since the 7th. I just got home. I missed the show and I missed the chat. I'm so happy to be a part of the Red Pill 78 family. Good to be home. Thank you so much. Also, it appears that it's Freya's 10th birthday today. Can we sing happy birthday and play Freya Knows? Yes. We will play Freya Knows at the end of the show, and we will sing happy birthday to your beautiful puppy dog, Freya. Everybody get your singing voices ready, because we will sing happy birthday to Freya. I'm just getting the video pulled up in another era. Kara Maga, good to see you, Kara. She says, great show as always. Good to see you. Thank you for that. Lee Walden, Tom Tillis, Toe Hitch, Straight Jacket, Ball Gag, Desert Road, what the heck, live stream, nice meme. Lee, you're crazy, but I like the way you think. All right, now let's actually hear from President Trump about the specter of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, the man who is currently leading the Federal Reserve. Now, President Trump says if Jerome Powell won't leave, I'm just going to have to fire him. I would love to see that.
That I would have done for $25 million, that's going to cost maybe $4 billion. Don't you think we have to find out what happened there? You know, we have other jobs like that, like the railroad in California, where it's, 25 times more than it was originally going to cost. And I think they're going to end up abandoning it. Okay, that's Gavin Newsom, or as I call him, Gavin Newsom. He's so bad. But that's the one. But I think the Federal Reserve building is just as bad. And so whether it's incompetence, corruption, or both, I think you have to find out. I really do. I think you have to find out.
So you're not going to drop the probe?
Oh, I'm not playing. I have to find out.
And he said he's not leaving if,
Well, then I'll have to fire him, okay? If he's not leaving on time, I've held back firing him. I've wanted to fire him, but I hate to be controversial, I want to be uncontroversial. But
and you think Kevin Warsh can get confirmed? You think Tom Tillis is going to give you a vote?
Well, we're going to have to find out. He might not, but that's why Tom Tillis is no longer a senator.
He won't be very soon. Denise Ann says the seditious six need to have a change of venue. I was wondering why they didn't ask for a change of venue as well. They did it to January. Did they? I mean, I thought that they had all of the January 6 trials in Washington, D.C. I know that several January 6 defendants attempted to apply for a change of venue, which would have brought them outside of Washington, D.C. They didn't get a fair trial. But no, they didn't get a fair trial, again, because it was Washington, D.C. And it was a jury of their peers. So neither should the corrupt, seditious six. Absolutely. Yeah, I would like to see that happen. But unfortunately, you have to first have them charged in the district in which the crime was committed. And that's the ultimate problem. The grand jury in D.C. refused to actually bring the charges against them. And that's, before you can have a change of venue for a trial, you first successfully have to be able to bring the charges against someone, and that has to be in the initial jurisdiction. Okay. The new Prue, thank you. He says, you're awesome, Zach. I appreciate you, buddy. Lee Walden also says, anyone remember the candy in the ad Good and Plenty? It said, choo-choo, Charlie was an engineer. Choo-choo, Charlie was the name, your hair and everywhere that choo-choo Charlie went, and Good and Plenty candies. I remember Good and Plenty candies, but I don't specifically remember the commercial. All right, another story about Judge Jeanine Pirro, and also about the January 6th defendants. Judge Jeanine Pirro has finally brought justice to the Proud Boy defendants. This is a really big deal. She has moved to dismiss the sedition charges against the Proud Boys. These are the charges that they were all charged with, designed to, of course, give them the maximum penalty, put them in prison, and pretty much destroy their lives. There were several of the Proud Boys who were retired members of the military, and they lost their pension, they lost all their benefits, they lost their disability if they were receiving it. So Zach, what was his name? Zachary Rell. Oh, sorry, Ethan Nordine and Zachary Rell. All right, so Zach Rell had a motion that he had put forward to get this done, and it also supported all of the other Proud Boy defendants. Jeanine Pirro then moved to dismiss all of the charges against the Proud Boys in terms of sedition. So those people had not received pardons. Some of them had not received pardons. Some of them had just received commutations, but none of them need pardons anymore because now they are officially not found to be guilty. They were never should have been charged with anything. They get all of their rights restored, all of their full military benefits. They also get back pay. So we're talking, I think it's like around 60 grand per year. So they're going to get a big check. And this is coming from Enrique Terrio. He said, "This is my happiest day since the pardon that released us from the jaws of injustice. I want to thank U.S. Attorney Pirro and DAG Todd Blanche. I also want to apologize for some of my harsh words previously. My passion is my brothers and this community, and I take them very seriously when they've suffered so much. And you have proven to share that passion. A huge thank you to President Trump. Also, thank you so much to the DOJ for doing what's right and showing that justice is still alive in our country." All right. Now, let me see. I want to say this is from yesterday. What is this? Enrique Terrio says, "Would Jeanine Pirro be arguing the same argument for President Trump? That answer is no. She would have fought vigorously in court, so why the double standard? Did she read what she signed, or is someone keeping her in the dark?" I don't know what this is about. Double standard, DOJ under fire over J6 case. Either way, accountability isn't optional. Okay,
maybe
so
it still is.
let me go to the beginning of this, and let's see what, because I haven't actually read the order yet.
She would have fought vigorously in court for him. So why the double standard?
And now you have Jeanine Pirro in there literally putting her signature on a piece of paper that's basically saying that everything that Merrick Garland did was good, that everything that the Biden regime did in their corrupt Department of Injustice, as we called it, and maybe it still is, was completely upside down. So she's saying that that's okay now.
I counter that this was the government's flagship, our case was the government's flagship case when it came to January 6th. It was
okay. So I understand. So the order to dismiss the charges was essentially done while at the same time absolving the DOJ of any criminal culpability. So they believe that the order itself was not strongly worded enough or didn't specifically identify the fact that the Biden Department of Justice bent the rules and misused the system of justice so that they could specifically punish these people to the greatest amount possible. So let's see. The government just filed its response to Zach's Rule 33 motion for a new trial. They didn't deny a single thing that Jeremy Bertino said in his recantation. They didn't challenge the sworn affidavit or the two lawyer-led video depositions. They basically admitted their star witness flipped and admitted that he lied under oath. Instead, they are fighting tooth and nail to agree with Merrick Garland and Joe Biden. Okay, so I understand. I understand what they're saying. But again, I don't know, who wrote this. It seems like obviously the ultimate and the fact that everybody gets their rights back and nobody is now going to be considered a felon. That's cool. But it does absolve many people of accountability, which is the thing that is going to piss a lot of people off. All right, so let's see. Continuing over here, BDR 1776. I 100% agree Eric is trash, but at this point with Congress voting down to release all the names, that was old. And that is still an ongoing issue. We are going to talk about that. All the names and members from the slush fund, I think we can assure they are all compromised. Again, that happened like over a month ago. I reported on it at that time. So it's now coming back up again and people are talking about it. I've seen people posting it as if it's a new vote. It's not. It's a new day in Washington, D.C. And yes, there are plenty of people who are compromised, but there is still an opportunity for that information to come out. Just because Congress does not want to have themselves exposed doesn't mean that there aren't people within Congress who can still expose them, even if they don't want to. So keep watching BDR. We're going to get there. Keith O'Higgins, my goodness, back from the dead, back from Lent. Good to see ya, homie. He says, don't forget, Zach, Judge Jeanine Pirro couldn't secure a prosecution of a Subway sandwich. Can't throw the book at someone who throws a sandwich. It's not that Judge Jeanine Pirro couldn't secure the prosecution. It's that the corrupt jury pool in Washington, D.C. wasn't willing to convict someone who had thrown a sandwich. Again, I go back to the very beginning. You can be the world's greatest prosecutor and present the best case in the world. You can prove that someone was guilty of murder. You can prove that they emailed all their friends about how they were going to do it beforehand. You can show a video of them purchasing the murder weapon and looking into the camera and saying, I can't wait to murder my wife. All of that doesn't mean anything if the 12 men and women who are seated on the jury look at the evidence and say, I don't care that this person committed this act, which they very clearly did. So we are going to go ahead and nullify this evidence, and we're just going to say not guilty. The problem is not Jeanine Pirro. The problem in this very specific instance is not the prosecutors who tried the case. The problem wholeheartedly is the District of Columbia. This is why there have been a number of cases like this that were nullified by D.C. juries, and why they haven't bothered to bring additional cases in this jurisdiction, because they simply will not be found guilty. That is not Jeanine Pirro's problem. Okay. And Northern Pike says, I go in and out of state of being livid with the words sickness. And then you said the kid will probably have a cool looking scar. I laughed at the comment and pray for humans. Absolutely. Yes, that's all we can do. You know, I mean, we can fight for what we can fight for. We can rail against evil. We can pray every single day. We can lift people up with humor and love and humility. But there will always be things that you and I will not be able to address. But the one thing that I can do is talk about it, and hope that by talking about it, more people will also be willing to talk about it, to draw attention to this stuff. And we can continue to work every single day to try to make sure that these things stop happening. All right. Oh, yeah, there you go. Maggie Bundy. O.J. Simpson juror admitted blacks were never going to find him guilty. Exactly. Anybody else here watched the O.J. Simpson trial and thought it was pretty obvious he killed his wife and Ron Goldman? Absolutely. But the problem was that the black jurors were not willing to convict O.J. Simpson of murder because he was black. That's just the way that it is. I don't think that they could have even done, you know, they couldn't have shown that he was guilty any more than he already was. All right. Now, of course, they probably shouldn't have had him try on that glove. That was so retarded. Okay. Continuing here. I'm going to show you a little bit of accountability. Now, a former VA official from Joe Biden's administration, John H. Wyndham. John H. Wyndham was in charge of overseeing the massive electronic health record modernization project. He's now being federally indicted. He concealed thousands of dollars in cash, casino chips, Louis Vuitton gift cards, lots of other lavish gifts from contractors. This was a quid pro quo payoff scheme. While he was leading this effort, he was the one in charge of awarding a $10 billion contract to a company called Cerner. Cerner was later purchased by healthcare giant Oracle Health. He allegedly pushed that company because of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, that led to a $1.7 million DEI-related subcontract for his private circle. And then he raked in personal perks from a so-called power group of favored vendors. These vendors would give him a cut of the money they were getting from the federal government. What happened? Well, it didn't turn out too well, not only for him, but also for veterans and the VA. The system they ended up putting in was disastrously flawed. Over 4,000 cases of known harm to veterans occurred as a result of the sloppy work. There also were 4 deaths that you could specifically attribute to the scheduling errors that occurred as a result of the shoddy coding that was done on the system, lost orders, a series of catastrophic failures. Whatever this guy gets charged with, he deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison. After this was rolled out, apparently, it was just a series of nightmares for the administrators who were forced to use it, and even worse for the veterans who were forced to endure it. This is what happens when, rather than making decisions based upon who is best suited for the position and throwing your ethics out the door, multi-billion-dollar contracts, the amount of money that is being spent by the federal government, you must ensure, we must ensure, the federal government must ensure that whomever it is that is awarding these contracts is above reproach. Perhaps it's better that not any one single person be in charge of these things. Perhaps it needs to be a committee so that there is a visible series of checks and balances that can be referenced back to. Because I can't tell you how many billions and billions and billions of dollars are being awarded in just this exact manner. But hopefully, more and more of them are going to be caught. These people will be held accountable, and something like this will not happen to veterans in the future. So this man, John H. Wyndham, is now looking at many years in prison. Let's hope that he gets it. All right. Now, BDR 1776, we are going to talk about Eric Swalwell, but we're also going to talk about a couple of other people. And I will go into specifics about the slush fund. We will talk about that. Now, let's hear from Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller appeared with Jesse Waters, and Jesse Waters wanted to know if the president has been following along with the downfall of Eric Swalwell.
Has the president said anything about Swalwell? I don't know if he said anything. Has he been following that?
Why, has he had a bad week, Jesse? I haven't been watching.
He might be busy with bigger matters of war and peace.
Couldn't have happened to a better person. But look, here's the most important thing if we have 10 seconds on this, and I'm sure you would agree with this. The most important part about this story, and look, Swalwell is a scumbag. He is a terrible person, the worst of the worst, the lowest of the low, the most dishonest of the most dishonest. But the real story here is how the Democrat Party controls its members through blackmail. It's got a blackmail file on all of its politicians, and it uses them to leverage and control them until it's time to release it. That is how sick and twisted the Democrat Party is. That's the next thread we've got to pull out here, Jesse.
Has the president...
So Stephen Miller is not wrong. I can't tell you for how many years I've said that blackmail is the currency of Washington, D.C. It's not just Democrats. However, in this instance, we are exposing Democrats. Now, as a number of Republicans begin to be exposed, the question will then have to be answered, is it just Democrats or is it the uniparty system? I think you guys know how I feel about that. I'm sure you feel the exact same way. Before we continue, one quick message from our friends over here on a Rumble. My guys and gals in the chat, banks are not your friends. They can freeze your accounts and shut off your cards. They have the power to lock you out of your money. They can do it at a whim. Overnight, in the middle of the day, it doesn't matter because banks do not protect you. They control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with actual ownership of your wealth. So introducing Rumble Wallet. It's a non-custodial wallet. It's built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin or Tether. You can also get Tether Gold. That's real gold on the blockchain. And with Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars. Each one of those bars is fully allocated. It's verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. It's real physical gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy it, sell it, move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's even when traditional gold markets are closed. And what's even cooler about it, if you want that Tether Gold, because it's real gold, it can be redeemed for the physical metal itself. They will send you a physical gold bar. That's extremely powerful. So plus, even better, when you support content creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using the Rumble wallet. It's peer-to-peer, totally outside the banking system. There's no permissions or middlemen or cancel button, and the wallet is yours forever. So to get it, just go to wallet.rumble.com, use the QR code you see on screen, or just go to the App Store on your device. Thank you very much to Rumble and Rumble Wallet. Appreciate you guys. Okay, and previously I was about to, I forgot to throw that. Oh my gosh, they're not allowing me. Speaking of censorship on YouTube, YouTube would not allow me to share the GoFundMe link for that poor little kid who got his face slashed. I wonder if that's because it was a white child who got his face slashed. All right. Now, moving on to our next story. Yes, it is about Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell. Now, I said on the thumbnail of this video that the evidence for Eric Swalwell's presence at that hotel on the date the new victim alleges she was drugged and raped by Eric Swalwell has gotten just a little bit more concrete. And this is coming as a result of Eric Swalwell's own campaign finance reporting. So, Murphy's Law is an adage that basically stipulates anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And Eric Swalwell, now that he has resigned from Congress, he has been living in the wrong for quite a long time. At one time, Eric Swalwell was just a guy going to college. For some reason, 6 years after graduating from college, he became a congressman. He just went, boom, straight into politics. There's nothing organic about it. I would suggest Eric Swalwell was probably compromised from the very beginning. Probably he was picked out as somebody who could be controlled through women, sex, money, power, whatever it might be, alcohol, drugs, who knows. But Eric Swalwell, no longer a congressman, no longer a candidate for governor, probably not going to be married much longer. I saw an unconfirmed report that Brittany Swalwell has retained an attorney. She may be filing for divorce rather quickly. It would be best for her if she was to distance herself from Swalwell as far as she possibly could. Of course, his 3 children probably should not be alone with him. And he is also not making any public statements. He hasn't been seen out and about. Yesterday, we learned about Lana Drews. Lana Drews is the new woman who came forward, gave a pretty graphic and disturbing tale about Eric Swalwell sexually assaulting her. I keep seeing comments in the chat. People seem to be confused about the actual timeline of the events. I will tell you that timeline. She had met Eric Swalwell socially. She owned a software company and she was a model. She saw Eric Swalwell in person on 3 separate occasions. They were always at social functions. She did not date him. She was not looking to date him. He reached out to her and said, I can help you get into politics, because he knew of her connections locally. He invited her to a political event. It was at that political event he said, we're going to go to another political event. I just need to grab some paperwork from my hotel room. And he took her there. He had bought her a drink. By the time they got to that room, she was already beginning to lose consciousness, and she said she was having trouble controlling her movements, her legs and arms. She had not been sexually assaulted. Eric Swalwell, by her estimation, had not even come on to her in those first 2 interactions they had. It was only on the 3rd and final interaction that Eric Swalwell did anything to make her think that she was now in a very bad situation. Now, of course, her claim is that this was at this particular hotel in Southern California. She said that he raped her, he choked her, and she believes that he drugged her drink because it was him who got her the drink. And, of course, she could not protest. She could not move, essentially. She lost consciousness, she claims, in the midst of being choked. She said, I thought I died. And that, the only reason she was hanging out with Eric Swalwell was because he offered to connect her with people who would help her software company. That first 2 meetings, she said, were perfectly pleasant and friendly. It was only on this final meeting at this West Hollywood hotel where the political event was being held that anything seemed to be off. Of course, Eric Swalwell's attorney, Eric, through his attorney, has vehemently denied these claims. These accusations are false, fabricated, and deeply offensive. A calculated and transparent political hit job. And he, of course, has said that he failed his wife. He made mistakes. What mistakes were those, Eric? He hasn't been specific about that. But now, at the same time, Eric Swalwell is denying the allegations of Ms. Drews. He cannot deny the paper trail, which puts him in the exact location of where Ms. Drews says this heinous sexual assault actually took place. You can see that from his FEC filings from the very date that she alleges this assault took place. You have two matching transactions that were billed to his campaign, and therefore the exact date and the exact location of when Ms. Drews alleges this sexual assault took place. So Eric Swalwell can't deny being there. You've got a charge for $353 at the Montrose West Hollywood Hotel. That's for travel expenses, and then $8. That's about the price of a drink, you guys. $353 would be for the room. $8 would be for the drink. She did say that he bought her one drink, and then the next thing you know, she can't control her body. So anyways, Eric Swalwell is going to have a very difficult time telling anybody that, he wasn't there. She ended up, of course, speaking to a number of people about it. And so there are contemporaneous accounts of other people around her. You can see here from the San Francisco Chronicle on September 27th of 2019, Ms. Drews said that Swalwell invited her and a group of friends to join him and an advisor at Haps. It's a steakhouse in downtown Pleasanton, so we've got witnesses to put them together at the time. The woman had been drinking before the gathering, she said, and then Swalwell brought her more alcohol when she arrived. She said she became so inebriated she does not remember how she left the restaurant. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a different one. This is the first woman who woke up in Eric Swalwell's hotel room. But it looks like that one can be linked directly to all of these charges at Haps, the very restaurant where she believes, where she claims she was with Eric Swalwell and all those people. Look at all of these. This is all the 8th, the 12th. It's like every night Eric Swalwell is going out and spending $300 to $500 at Haps on booze. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And you can see Eric Swalwell right here. This is the amount paid for disbursements for childcare. We've already seen that one. This is for the robe yachting video. This is for all of his travel expenses to American Airlines. Again, all of these campaign expenses put him in these locations where people claim he was involved with various levels of assault. But here we do have these two matching transactions for the exact same date and location where Miss Drews claims that she was assaulted by Eric Swalwell. So not very good for Eric Swalwell. The one thing we can say now is that it appears that Eric Swalwell's campaign paid for him to allegedly rape and drug a woman at 900 block of Hammond Street in July of 2018. So that would have been before he raped the other girl in the September of 2019. So the Montrose Hotel campaign finance expert Rob Pyers has flagged a travel expense from Swalwell's campaign at the time. FEC records show Swalwell for Congress spent $361 in travel expenses at the Montrose Hotel on July 18th of 2018. So Swalwell has repeatedly denied claims of sexual assault and abuse, but he has not been charged with any crimes yet. Let me just say, because he has not yet been charged with crimes, it doesn't mean he's not going to be charged with crimes, because the Los Angeles District Attorney, roughly the area where this assault is alleged to have taken place, has now opened an official investigation into Eric Swalwell. The LADA is Nathan Hochman. He has confirmed the investigation after this fifth accuser's come forward with those shocking details given during that press conference yesterday morning. Nathan Hochman said in a statement that his office has assigned its sex crimes division to work closely with law enforcement partners as this investigation unfolds. When and if a case is presented, seasoned prosecutors will review the facts and evidence to determine whether there is sufficient evidence for charges to be filed. When a filing decision is made, we will ensure the public is made aware. Hochman's statement was made in response to an inquiry from The Hill regarding this new allegation of sexual assault against Eric Swalwell. So that is not good for Eric Swalwell, but that's not the only location. He is currently being investigated. We have the investigation in Los Angeles. We have the investigation in Manhattan. We have Jeanine Pirro's investigation in Washington, D.C. And of course, we have the FBI's open probe into Eric Swalwell that we told you about yesterday. So that is no shorter than 4 distinct jurisdictions by which Eric Swalwell is currently being investigated for varying degrees of sexual assault. So I would just suggest that if there is evidence to show that Eric Swalwell actually sexually assaulted any of these women, somebody is going to find it because the internet is forever. Now, we have also found, as a result of Joel Gilbert's efforts, that the U.S. Department of Labor, the Office of the Inspector General, has actually spoken to him, confirming that his complaint against Brittany Swalwell for perjury and immigration fraud has now officially been referred to the Office of Foreign Labor Certification for review and action. So that means that they are no longer just looking at it. They are looking at it to see if they can charge Eric Swalwell's soon-to-be ex-wife. Now, this right here is, I believe, Joel Gilbert's full referral that he sent to the office. And of course, it's loaded with all of the evidence that we've already gone over on this case. So we're not going to do that. But I think that Joel Gilbert does great work. I mean, when he wants to nail somebody, he nails somebody. And this is great to know that both Eric Swalwell and his soon-to-be ex-wife are both being investigated. Let's see. G. Fontes says, not saying he's innocent, but he sure left the perfect trail for somebody to put up a case without any physical evidence or firsthand witnesses at a hotel. No, absolutely correct. I mean, like, here's the thing. Somebody who's a serial rapist is not going to leave a pair of panties around with, his DNA on it. And people who get away with things because they're good at not leaving a trail of physical evidence. But, the one thing that you can't get rid of are the firsthand accounts of witnesses who were subjected to these things. So I think that this might likely come down to digital evidence of perhaps, locations and such. Now, yesterday, I also told you that Martin Shkreli had put Ro Khanna on blast. Since that post was on X, Ro Khanna has apparently got a whole host of people in D.C. who are ready to see him taken down. Martin Shkreli says, a number of people have called me about Ro Khanna. Ro portrays that he is a clean dude. Well, he is not. Receipts will be posted. Be patient. The dossier must be immaculate. I am eagerly waiting to see what they pull up on Ro Khanna. Remember, Ro Khanna is another California politician. He's also long been a California politician. So just imagine how many different people might have interesting bits of information about Ro Khanna's certain predilections he may be subject to. He's also been one of the loudest voices on the whole Epstein Files saga. I wonder if that's because Ro Khanna might have his own files that might be out there waiting. All at the most damaging time to his career and the benefit of a desperate political party in California, just playing devil's advocate, not trying to be John LOL. No. I agree with you. I think the only reason we're learning about this in the way that we are is because the Katie Porter campaign and Democrat leadership wanted to get rid of Eric Swalwell. They knew that the only way that they were going to get him to drop out was to force him to drop out. This is the sad reality of Washington, D.C. politics, of politics in general in the United States. This is why they have dossiers on people. This is why they allow them to engage in criminal activity so that when they need to use it against them, they can. They might never use it against them. But in Eric Swalwell's instance, they wanted to get rid of him because he was going to split the votes. And probably they also knew that other people were going to come forward because he had so many women that he had assaulted over the years. And they figured, you know what, we might as well be the ones who do this so that we can get rid of him and send him off into the sunset. Yeah, but just because it's coming out at a time that is acceptable and, beneficial to certain Democrats doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Now, continuing here, talking about Republicans, well, people are saying on X that there is apparently some damaging information that's about to be dropped about Byron Donalds. Now, Byron Donalds is also running for governor down here in Florida. Byron Donalds was one of the people that I was considering supporting. I tend to like James Fishbach more, but James Fishbach, I think, has his own problems. But Byron Donalds recently seemingly came out in support of the Dignity Act. Anybody who supports the Dignity Act is immediately dead to me, metaphorically speaking. I cannot support someone who supports amnesty of illegal aliens. I cannot support someone who supports increasing the number of legal immigrants we have here in the United States of America. Now, here he is hanging out with Corey Mills. We've already gone over the various claims against Corey Mills. Corey Mills was accused by his ex-girlfriend of threatening to release revenge porn. That's not just a claim made by her. She's got receipts. I mean, she's got the text messages from him. She got a restraining order against him. So the rumor here is that allegedly a video of Byron Donalds and Corey Mills tag teaming a young girl is set to come out in the next week. Now, this could just be internet topping. It may have no truth or basis in fact, but obviously we're going to go ahead and keep an eye on this because, as I said yesterday, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, commie, socialist, Green Party, or libertarian. If you are a sick degenerate and you have blackmail material out there on you, you will never represent the American people. You do not get to remain in politics. You need to retire. You need to go off into the sunset. And we only should have people representing Americans who have, if they've made mistakes, then they need to have already owned those mistakes so nobody can use them against them. But the one thing you can't be is a rapist or a kitty diddler. Those two things are things that you will never be forgiven for. So we're keeping an eye on this right now. Now, George Santos, we've talked about a couple of things that he's said recently. He also posted this new tidbit about Ruben Gallego, the former best friend of Eric Swalwell. Ruben Gallego is a senator from Arizona for the Democrats. He was, previous to that, a representative in the U.S. House. George Santos is saying that a former staffer of Ruben Gallego has come forward, not publicly, but she is claiming that Ruben Gallego fired her. After he made a sexual advance at her, she rejected him, and then she complained to Ruben Gallego's chief of staff. She's telling George Santos that she is ready to go public with great detail. Two dogs effing. I don't know who Matt the Welder is. If you guys ever want me to talk to people or something, send me an email because there are so many personalities out there producing content. I can't possibly know who all of them are. Feel free to send me an email, redpill78@proton.me, and I'll check them out. I'll do whatever I can. Okay, so the whispers of Senator Gallego have always been rampant, but if the shoe drops, he's crooked. Again, this may just be internet window dressing. It may have no basis in fact. However, I have reported on rumors about the nasty, untoward actions of Senator Ruben Gallego since before he was a senator. Carrie Lake, back in 2024, spoke about the rumors of Ruben Gallego. He also, much like Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff, apparently lied to get a $1 million VA loan. He was a Marine, and so he qualified for a VA loan, but he lied about his residency. G. Fontes says, yes, and the Porter woman should benefit from the female vote in California, all obviously the victims of Swalwell now, and get back at him by voting for Porter, at least making a plausible story. I don't know that that's going to happen, because even as Eric Swalwell has dropped out, as far as I've seen in polling, Katie Porter has not risen in the polls. We are going to talk about Katie Porter in a minute, but she's got her own problems. Hold on. Love to Coke says he did not. Do your research, Zach. So I don't know who you're talking about. He did not. Who are you saying he did not? Because I haven't accused anybody of anything. What I am reporting on is rumors on the internet. And anything that I've said here today, I've said they may be baseless rumors. They may have no basis in fact. And so all I'm doing is reporting on people saying people are going to be exposed. And so because it's been said, I am waiting to see if anything of substance comes out. So I don't have anything that I think you could be referring to unless you just tuned in halfway through what I was saying. All right. And I'm just waiting to see if they speak again in the chat. Anyways, I'll continue. All right. So with regard to Ruben Gallego, there have been rumors about Ruben Gallego's behavior for many years. I find it difficult to believe that he would be best friends with Eric Swalwell, hang out with Eric Swalwell as much as he did, witness Eric Swalwell cheating on his wife as often as he apparently did, and apparently have no knowledge about that behavior. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so anyways, let's continue because somebody who definitely needs to be expelled from Congress, I think a number of people are going to be expelled from Congress very soon. Corey Mills is one of those people that they are going to have an expulsion vote for. Speaker Mike Johnson has confirmed that the expulsion vote for Sheila Cherfilus McCormick is going to be held next week.
Busy committees in Congress, and they are around the clock investigating allegations against.
Well, Lee, to be fair, no evidence is being presented yet. So I don't think the 72-hour rule even holds true. The 72-hour rule is when you take the time to evaluate the evidence that's being presented. Rumors are not sufficient to even evaluate whether or not somebody is telling the truth. Until such evidence is presented, there's nothing that we have to even evaluate.
Members, that is the due process that's afforded everyone. When an allegation is made, they go into that process. It's bipartisan by design, and it has worked well. And some of those investigations are ongoing. I'll note next week there's another Democrat, Cherfilus McCormick, who will be to a sentencing hearing on Tuesday of next week through the House Ethics Committee. They investigated and gave her so much due process that it took more than 2 years because she resisted it. I expect that they will come forward with a recommended punishment for the Congress, and I suspect that may be expulsion. In my view, that would be appropriate there. And she's had all the investigation, and the facts have borne out. Apparently, she has stolen FEMA funds. I mean, think of it. You know, the embezzlement of disaster relief funds by a member of Congress. That deserves expulsion. It is a rare penalty. It's only happened so far 6 times since 1789. But these times call for desperate measures, right? So we'll do.
All right. So Sheila Cherfilus McCormick, I've heard people say it's not right to expel someone when they haven't gone through the process of, actually having a trial in a court of law. Well, unfortunately, you may feel that way, but Congress wrote the rules to expel people after they have their own ethics hearings and they make their own determination based upon the evidence they have presented. In terms of Sheila Cherfilus McCormick, undoubtedly, she used her position and her company to fraudulently obtain these FEMA funds that were expressly supposed to be used for COVID disaster relief stuff. and hurricane relief. And she funneled them into her campaign account and then into her personal account. So the paper trail is there for Sheila Trophilis McCormick. I am upset that up until this point, she has not yet received that trial and she hasn't been found guilty in a court of law. However, in the meantime, the very presence of these charges against her clouds the entire process, and it does no good for the people of her district to have her there in Congress. Plus, I don't even think that she is a legitimate holder of that office. She won by like 5 votes or something like that. Anyways, I want to get back to what BDR was talking about earlier with regard to that list of congressmen who were responsible for the payouts to victims of their sexual assault or bad behavior. Now, the motion that was held over a month ago was for the congressional release of that information. And yes, many members of Congress voted not to release that information. Now, because of that vote, and people are obviously paying attention to it and acting like it's a new thing. Even my mom sent it to me the other day. But people think it's a new thing because now they're just hearing about it for the first time, thinking that, wow, what a tone-deaf move for Congress to vote on this in the midst of everything that we're learning about all these people. Again, it happened previously, but the reason I am still holding out hope for its release is because Anna Paulina Luna, who has been one of the major voices seeking the release of this information, along with Nancy Mace and Representative Lauren Boebert, Anna Paulina Luna sits on the House Oversight Committee, and the House Oversight Committee has subpoena power, and they use that subpoena power to request these very records, the same records for congressional sexual harassment slush fund payouts. Now, they are going to receive them because that is a lawful subpoena that must be complied with. Once they get that list, the Oversight Committee is releasing the information to the public. So we're going to find out. Did those people in Congress vote no to release it because their names are on that list? Did they vote no to release it because they are beholden to somebody whose name is on that list? Either way, it's likely going to lead to more resignations. And I am eagerly anticipating the release of that information. Now, let me say thank you very much to Gadget New, and I think that was from Rumble Wallet. So thank you very much for the $10 in Bitcoin, Gadget New. Appreciate you there. And also, thank you very much to Lee Walden. Can you share your thoughts regarding how Congress has a secret slush fund? I remember 30 years ago to the claims. That's what I'm talking about right now. I saw something earlier that said that the slush fund was actually disbanded back in 2018. The only way to describe a taxpayer-funded slush fund to be used in cases of sexual harassment or assault by members of Congress is to describe one of the slimiest mechanisms to allow these people to escape accountability. This is why it's so vitally important that the work of the House Oversight Committee is completed to release that information to the public. Because again, I don't care if it's Democrats. I don't care if it's Republicans, whatever party they are. If they're engaging in this type of behavior, then it needs to be exposed because we can't allow this to continue happening. And even more importantly, the American taxpayer cannot be on the hook to keep these people silent. Yesterday, we talked about the closure of the Young Page program. Children as young as 13, 14, 15 years old were getting into the Page program to come work in Congress, and members of Congress were sexually assaulting them. There is no such thing as consensual sex with a 13-year-old. That is child sexual abuse. And I would have to believe that any of those kids that were abused in the Young Page program were also paid out from this very taxpayer funded slush fund. So, yeah, it's a problem. It's a huge problem. And the release of that information of every single member of Congress, regardless of whether or not they're still in office, having that information released to the public is paramount. We need that to happen. All right. Now, we also have, okay, so let's just put this all in perspective, okay? Because I'm about to tie a bow on this shit. All right, so we have members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, rumors of some people being exposed, some people already being exposed, and the Oversight Committee about to release the names on that slush fund payout list. yesterday. J.D. Vance also brought up Pizzagate. And guess what? J.D. Vance is going to be investigating Pizzagate. Not J.D. Vance himself, but he is ordering an investigation into Pizzagate. Congressional, Washington, D.C., sexual abuse, Pizzagate. Does anybody think those two things are disconnected?
I'm probably more obsessed with this than most officials, okay? Probably more obsessed with this than most people even in this room, is when you see somebody who says something in an email that suggests, there's one email I read, and it's been a little while ago, but it was talking about, one person sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein saying, oh, there was some really nice, pizzas and grape sodas or something like that. And I remember it sounded like the Pizzagate conspiracy theory, but here it was in an email from a guy. And my reaction to that was, we should absolutely investigate that person, okay? And, you remind me, I'm going to follow up on that to see whether we've investigated that person, because we should. We absolutely should. When you see evidence of sexual assault, sexual misconduct, regardless of whether you're powerful or not, in fact, you should probably investigate it more if you're a powerful person, right? I don't want powerful people, being involved in this disgusting behavior. I'm probably more obsessed with this.
All right, so Pizzagate now being investigated. At the same time, Congress is being exposed for engaging in sick activities. Guess what? Sean Hannity, speaking last night with John Solomon, also mentioned that Hillary Clinton's deleted servers sounds like they're actually backed up in the hands of a foreign power. This is not the last story about Hillary Clinton here, but we've got Congress, sexual abuse, Pizzagate, Hillary Clinton servers. Stay tuned. Listen to this.
Let me go back to the beginning, and then you're going to fill in the gaps. Sure. So Hillary Clinton, top secret classified information on servers. Okay. And by the way, can you answer this question before I go any further?
Sure.
My understanding, my sources, which are nowhere deep and certain as yours, tell me that those servers, copies of them exist and that we may have them. Any truth to that?
Yeah, they're looking at a foreign power that may have, because it was looking at a hacker back in the time when Hillary had the server, may have recovered a large part of the evidence. Now, they're still validating them, so we don't know if that's real evidence or not. Whenever you get something from a foreign power, it's a tricky thing to validate, but that is one of the operations that are ongoing in the intelligence community right now. Whether they'll ultimately validate it, what they're looking for are the emails that were erased. A lot of those are believed to potentially be about the Clinton Foundation, maybe not about classified information, but about the grift that was going on there. And if those do get recovered, they could contribute to an ongoing criminal investigation about pay-to-play politics in the Obama era.
Not only pay-to-play politics in the Obama era, but also to what JD was just talking about, also to what I was just talking about with Congress. I saw it in the chat. Andrew Breitbart, what's in your closet, John Podesta? Well, now we're going to hear from Lauren Boebert, because Lauren Boebert is using her position on the Oversight Committee to subpoena the Anthony Weiner laptop, which also brings Hillary Clinton into play. The Anthony Weiner laptop is in the hands of the FBI. Lauren Boebert and the Oversight Committee are now taking possession of the Anthony Weiner laptop.
I actually was working on getting the Anthony Weiner laptop because I want to see the files that are on this. And while we still had Attorney General Pam Bondi, she had sent me over to the FBI, and there is no active search warrant on that computer. And so they are saying that I am unable to view it without a new search warrant. And there has to be new information. I think these Epstein files give us new information to look into the Anthony Weiner laptop. Yeah. I absolutely want to know what was on there, what was the...
Now, just before she continues, new information could very easily come from the recovery of Hillary Clinton servers, dealing with Benghazi, pay to play, Clinton Foundation, crimes against children. All right. All of that would count as new information and would open the door to the seizure of the Anthony Weiner laptop for the Oversight Committee. Continuing.
secret folder that was titled Life Insurance, that had frazzle.rip, where people get the frazzle drip story from. I want to see this video. You know, if it's totally fake, if it's not there, I'll come out and say it. I want to see what people are talking about. These things don't just originate out of nowhere. So if it means issuing a subpoena from the Oversight Committee to get my hands on this laptop, then that's what I will do. If there's anything linking the Anthony Weiner laptop to the Epstein files, I will use that to get another search warrant. But I'm getting my hands on this laptop and looking to see what was in it. You know, I mean, it's been said that FBI agents who went in and viewed this laptop, many of them are not alive anymore.
Now, that's obviously not correct. She's getting FBI agents confused with NYPD detectives and officers who viewed the Anthony Weiner laptop. They are the ones who mysteriously, after viewing this laptop, left the room throwing up, and then over the course of the next year or two, mysteriously just kept killing themselves. Obviously, I believe they were ARC-incited.
And so, I mean, what is it with this laptop? Apparently, you know, it's been said that, that many have committed suicide, that it was so disturbing. But also, a lot of people around Hillary Clinton and her cohorts seem to commit suicide, oddly.
There's a whole Wikipedia page.
A whole page.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so that's enough on that. That's what I wanted to tell you guys. But I just want you to, like, just sit back for a second. Just think about this, okay? In the last 24 hours, the sum total of this that I have just reported to you, that's not nothing. That is huge, absolutely huge. All right, now, I promise you somebody making a claim about Benny Johnson, and I want you to consider the source. However, this woman, Ashley St. Clair, the baby mama of Elon Musk, claims that she has damaging information about Benny Johnson. Now, Milo has already previously come forward and made some claims about Benny Johnson, suggesting that perhaps he is a closeted homosexual, that he and his wife have a sort of open relationship. The reason Ashley St. Clair... and Benny Johnson said that he was going to sue Milo. He never sued Milo, okay? If anything Milo was saying had any scintilla of truth, Benny Johnson suing Milo would open himself up to discovery, and it would require perhaps the revelation of certain things that maybe he doesn't want people to know. I have no skin in this game. I have no feelings about Benny Johnson one way or the other. I don't want to see Benny Johnson get taken down. That's not my goal here. I'm merely reporting on this because what Ashley St. Clair is saying is that she's claiming to be coming forth with evidence of bad behavior by Benny Johnson. Don't know what that behavior is, but someone in the chat yesterday said that there was some claim about Benny Johnson and a kid. The only thing that I heard was that Benny Johnson and Elijah Schaefer were like youth pastors at the same church. There has been a credible claim made against Elijah Schaefer, and we will talk about that in a moment. But apparently, Ashley St. Clair is preparing to bring information forward because she didn't like the way Benny Johnson was talking about her. Again, consider the source. I'm not saying it's true. I am merely reporting on it because it may become relevant very soon.
This is a message for Benny Johnson. Since I came forward about my experience with that predator...
Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Ashley St. Clair has also made a claim against Madison Cawthorn. Now, there is no evidence for that. All she's saying is that Madison Cawthorn acted inappropriately around her. I do find that interesting, considering that Madison Cawthorn is back in the news, and he was the one who blew the whistle about orgies and cocaine parties in Washington, D.C. So, you know, again, I want to give you guys all of the information that I have about this. So I am not saying that Ashley St. Clair is a credible source, but I am definitely going to be watching to see what she posts.
Madison Cawthorn. I had mentioned in my video that Benny Johnson, I had disclosed to him that I had experienced this behavior with Madison Cawthorn, and that Benny has continued to platform this awful human being. However,
now, one of the reasons that I doubt Ashley St. Clair is because not only has she not produced any evidence about Madison Cawthorn, but she's also somebody who's desperately in need of money. Her career has stalled. Her ticket to the money train with Elon has dried up, and she has now resorted to essentially gossip mongering on the internet. And this is how she is getting clicks. I would like to mention that this is not her account that I'm using.
I'm not a consumer of Benny Johnson content because I value my IQ and I'm not one of his cerebral speed bump boomer followers. Unfortunately, I've watched his content in the last 24 hours because it's been sent to me. And before yesterday, I was unaware of the content that Benny Johnson had been putting out about me on his show, including about my family and my children, and that I should lose my child, that I am not a sane parent, that I am a narcissist, making up lies about my finances and
all of that may be true.
my family situation. So, Benny, I have been sitting on the receipts of you for far too long. You and your sociopathic behavior and the way you operate your businesses and your grift.
All right. So, again, no specific claims about Benny Johnson other than to say she doesn't like him. She doesn't like the things that he has said about her. Whatever she brings out next, of course, if she lies about Benny Johnson can sue her. What she said in this clip here, it makes it very clear that her goal is to take down Benny Johnson. That is actual malice. It's one of the reasons I thought it was important to play this, because whatever comes out about Benny Johnson, in order to prove defamation, you have to prove absolute malice. And she appears to have malice against Benny Johnson. So Ashley St. Clair better watch her six, depending on what she's about to say next. Now, this next claim about Elijah Schaffer is that Elijah Schaffer abused a 16-year-old boy. Now, I also want you to consider the source on this, because the source is his soon-to-be ex-wife. His ex-wife, in the course of a deposition, has made the claim that Elijah Schaffer admitted to her that he essentially sexually abused a 16-year-old boy when he was a youth pastor. And you can see that written right here. One of the concerns that she had about him, why she was requesting custody of the kids, is that she says he admitted he abused a child when he was a youth pastor. Yes, a boy child. A 16-year-old boy. Yes, sir. All right. Now, pretty disturbing. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because if there's any truth to it, obviously it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be investigated, and there needs to be consequences for that. The one thing that I can say is that Elijah Schaffer appears to be really going through a very difficult time, appears to be on a lot of different psych medications. Obviously, he and his wife are not doing well. Elijah Schaffer is not somebody that I follow, but I kind of witnessed his spin out online. And with that being said, his wife coming out and saying this, it could either be that it's true or that she is merely lying to gain custody of the children. And I know that myself better than, most people, because I dealt with a crazy baby mama. Okay, so I know that women in divorce proceedings, women in breakups, people in breakups, men and women both, people behave badly. So this is clearly something that needs to be approached with caution. That's why I said it that way. All right, now, somebody who, however, is a documented abuser is the aforementioned Katie Porter. Katie Porter, do you have a toga on your profile? No, it's not a toga. It's like a Buddhist monk robe. Somebody made that of me at GART because during the panel with JB, where he basically accused me of not doing enough research, even though I do a lot, I feel, really do my due diligence on everything, try to give as balanced an opinion as I possibly can. JB had accused me of not doing my research on Ukraine. And I said, oh, is that so? And anyways, because I didn't lose my shit and because I have such a calm demeanor, somebody had made a picture of me as a Buddhist monk. And so that's the picture that I used for my Twitter profile. All right, so as we have established, the first woman to bring these claims out against Eric Swalwell is directly associated with the Katie Porter campaign. It's one of the reasons that I waited after she initially came out to see what else came out along with it before I began reporting on it, because I knew from the get-go that it simply could be an op by an opponent of Eric Swalwell in the California gubernatorial race. Now, it can be an op, and it is, but it's also an op that appears to have a lot of meat on those bones. So, Katie Porter commented on Eric Swalwell's behavior on X, and because I've also reported on the multitude of bad behavior that Katie Porter has had throughout her time in Congress, and then even after she left and tried running for various offices, all to no avail. People do not like Katie Porter. She is really a disgusting example of a human being. She wrote multiple posts about Eric Swalwell, basically supporting his many accusers, and she got community noted because she's got her own evidence of predatory behavior and physical assault. So Porter obviously is looking to capitalize on Eric Swalwell leaving the governor's race. With him out of the race, it is just one less Democrat for people to split their votes on. There's still 4 people on there. In the latest polling from Real Clear Polling, Swalwell still held a narrow lead over this crowded field of Democrat challengers. At that time, Porter was a close second. And it doesn't matter, however, if she is a close second, because there could still end up being the situation where Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco end up being the top 2 vote getters, and then they're the ones who end up in the general election. Now, she said on X, the allegations against Congressman Swalwell are horrifying. I'm thinking of the courageous women who have come forward to share their stories. We believe you and we stand with you. It's funny because this is the exact same type of thing that Eric Swalwell would have said if these claims were made about anybody else that was also running for governor and they were forced to drop out of the governor's race. You can see that right here. Somebody did a community note and said, Katie Porter is an alleged domestic abuser who poured scalding potatoes on her ex-husband's head. She's also been seen on camera verbally berating staff for minor slights, and she has been described as abusive herself. There was also a credible claim of Katie Porter actually sleeping with her own aides when she was in Congress. Now, in case you've never seen this clip, I think that it's a perfect time to demonstrate for you just how big of a piece of shit Katie Porter is. In this clip, she is being interviewed in her home. This is during the plandemic. There is an aide, a congressional aide that's there working with her, and Katie Porter is literally live on a Zoom interview at the time. Just watch what happens.
And I never have to go to the gas station.
That's awesome. And $632 is real money. And I know here at UCI, we have a National Fuel Center Research Center, and they're also doing work on how to make electric vehicles affordable, including for low and moderate income people, working moms, single moms like me, people who really could benefit from an extra $632 in their pocket. And it's also not just the individual savings, but it's also the total savings for our economy. So I'm on the oversight committee, you might know, and that is where we did a study recently this fall in September. And what it showed is if we don't electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems. And the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shop.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't make the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shop before that. Stay out of my shop. Okay, I'm going to start.
She is a terrible, terrible, terrible person. Now, that's an excellent example of that. But what I said before, one of the reasons she got a divorce from her husband, why he left her, is because Katie Porter would frequently verbally abuse her husband in front of their children. She would throw toys, books, whatever she could grab with those big old meat paw hands of hers. And she poured a boiling pot of mashed potatoes, scalding hot potatoes and water on his head during a fight. Matthew Homan filed for divorce from Katie Porter back in 2013 and said in the request for a restraining order from this crazy broad that she would routinely call him an effing idiot, effing incompetent, and she shattered a glass coffee pot on the kitchen counter in March 2012 when she felt that their house wasn't clean enough. Now, the people of California know Katie Porter. I don't think that she's got a snowball's chance in hell of winning because all of this bad behavior is well reported. Katie Porter is a seriously, seriously terrible person. Now, you might also remember the last time Katie Porter ran for an office and lost, she refused to answer questions during the middle of this interview. All of the other candidates had asked the exact same questions, and Katie Porter basically just wanted to control the interview. She refused to answer the questions, and then she cut it short. She cut it short and got up. She is such a terrible person. Bad, bad, bad attitude about everything. So I love going over these divorce documents. Again, yesterday I admitted this is Schadenfreude, okay? I love seeing these people suffer because I think they deserve it. I love seeing them exposed because they definitely deserve it. So here also in another post, she said, too often men escape any consequence for sexual misconduct by stepping out of power. This is a first and necessary step towards justice because it limits the ability of further harm. I stand with these women as they seek justice. Now, somebody else community noted that one and said, Katie Porter has escaped consequence of physically and verbally abusing both her husband with a scalding pot of hot mashed potatoes and her staff. Katie Porter is doing pretty much the exact same thing that Eric Swalwell, all these other scumbags in Congress did. Then on Sunday, she shared an excerpt from the San Francisco Chronicle article urging Democrats to rally around her. The longtime rap against the former Congresswoman is that she didn't play well in the sandbox with her fellow House members, the Chronicle excerpt read in part. According to the all-caps community note, however, allegation against Porter weren't that she clashed with other politicians. It was that she was abusive to her employees. That's right. Katie Porter, abusive to her employees, had a number of on-air meltdowns. I think that this may be that, yes, this is the meltdown that I had mentioned just a moment ago. Let me see if we can actually get... No, this is the get out of my effing shot. Okay, hold on. Let me see. I really want to play that clip of Katie Porter freaking out. Let me see. So Katie Porter, yeah, this was the last time she ran for California governor. Oh, no, this is just last fall. That's it. Katie Porter, I don't want to keep doing this. Okay. Yeah, if you can't handle answering questions to the press. Oh my gosh, here's another claim about Eric Swalwell and Ruben Gallego. Bombshell records find that Eric Swalwell and Senator Ruben Gallego spent campaign cash during Gallego's wedding for Puerto Rican escorts. This is straight up illegal. Gallego likely knew everything about Swalwell. Launch a probe. Oh yeah, here we go. $2,000 at the Fairmont El San Juan Gallego for governor for Arizona. Hyatt Regency, $1,058 for Swalwell for Congress, and then another $464 spent by Swalwell for Congress. I would not doubt that they were spending money on escorts. Okay. Katie Porter meltdown. We've seen that one. Get out of my effing shot. Okay, here she is, refusing to answer questions.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. Single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care. I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
Can you imagine telling a journalist that you just don't want to answer follow-up questions? Like, that's really not the way to get people to vote for you.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either.
What part?
Too late, Katie Porter. It's already on camera. You have already sunk yourself. All right. Now, Tom Steyer is another person running for California governor. You may remember Tom Steyer. He ran for president as well. He is a communist multimillionaire, and actually, he's a billionaire. Sorry about that. He's also a major Democrat donor. So he launched a run for president back in 2020. Didn't last very long. He's now looking like he may be the person that Californians vote for instead of Katie Porter. And Steyer has already burned through $100 million to buy this election. And he's not doing that great in the polls. So you can see, like, dollar for dollar, dollar for votes. It's not very much, or it's not money very well spent. So Steyer released an immigration platform yesterday, and it is so insane that he makes Gavin Newsom look like President Trump, to be quite honest with you. He wants to abolish ICE completely. He wants to throw ICE agents in jail. He also wants to make sure that every Californian taxpayer pays for every single dime required to support free legal representation for illegal aliens. He's also vowing to ignore a recent Supreme Court ruling in favor of ICE. This is his full platform. Abolish ICE, put the agents in jail, treat them like the mob, bring those kidnapped and detained by ICE back home. He wants to give the AG of California the power to imprison ICE agents and their leadership. He wants the taxpayer-funded legal representation and support for illegal aliens. He wants to ignore the SCOTUS ruling that allows ICE to utilize race, language, job, and location to contribute to reasonable suspicion for immigration arrests, and instead, California should take matters into our own hands and extend legal protections to its residents despite the federal government's failure. But here's the strange thing. At one point, he actually invested almost $90 million into a company that was responsible for building some of California's largest immigration detention centers. I can't wait to see if people actually get a chance to ask him about this. Steyer founded a hedge fund named Farallon Capital Management back in 1986. Under that management, the fund put money into Core Civic, which runs a lot of private prisons. Farallon's shares in the company were valued at $89.1 million at one point. Now the company still runs 5 of these immigration facilities in California, and at least 2 of them house people detained by federal immigration agents, one near San Diego and another near Kern County. Now, Steyer sold his stake in Farallon back in 2012. He's now attempting to do damage control because people are starting to pay attention. He said, "We never had anything to do with running the company, but it was a mistake to think that there was a place where it was a decent time to make money." All right, you guys, we are going to close it out there. I have one final message from our friends over here on Rumble, and I also need to say thank you very much to Lee Walden. He said 30 years ago the fund was reported to be $18 million. Can't imagine what it is now. I'm sure it's a lot more because, of course, they're going to invest money that they're going to use to pay off victims of sexual assault from congressmen, much better than they would when investing money that's taken from your paycheck for Social Security. All right, you guys, final thoughts right here. As you are all aware, this is a message for parents and grandparents, some real talk about the major milestone that America is about to hit, 250th birthday. It's going to be wild this summer. 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever seen. It's the perfect moment to help your children understand why this country matters, not just the memes, not just the fireworks and the hot dogs, the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday. It's honestly a great way to introduce your kids to how America began, who those founding fathers were, what they risked, why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This is a guide that's going to send those kids back to the moment when the brave men signed the Declaration of Independence. When they did that, they knew exactly what they were risking. All of it was for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way that kids can actually understand and enjoy. It's not going to water it down or turn it into boring schoolwork. So if you care about raising kids or your grandkids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you're going to want to grab. The best part is it's completely free with the special offer. You only pay the $2 for shipping and postage. You can head on over to freeusabirthday.com. freeusabirthday.com, and the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday is there for your kids today, because America's story matters. So make sure the next generation knows it. You can use that QR code on screen or go to freeusabirthday.com. Thank you very much to the good folks over at Rumble. And one final thank you to Lee Walden. I know these commie rat bastards are on their dying breath, but the madness is totally off the cliff. It's time to stop accepting the madness. Well, I don't know that any of us are accepting it. You guys, I am personally having a great time watching all of this stuff come out, watching Congress eat themselves. I think there are a couple of good people in Congress. They may not be perfect, but they don't all have to necessarily be pederasts and sexual abusers. The ones who are, we're going to expose, we're going to get rid of them, and we are going to bring some sanity back to the United States of America. Let me also say thank you very much to Darla, who says, can we the people file a class action lawsuit to remove woke judges and corrupt Congress personnel? We pay for it. I don't know of a legal mechanism to do that. Filter Dog says, Magyar Peter rejects the EU migration pact. Hungary will not accept any pact. In fact, I'm going to reinforce the border fence even more. That's fascinating. That's the exact opposite of what I assumed he was going to do. But he's not actually president or prime minister yet, so he may do something completely different. Let's see. Super D, thank you for the cookie. CL Goober says, Thumper Rose 1, DC not being a state, shouldn't hold state courts. They do not hold state courts, and yes, they are not a state. They have a district court. They have their own district court. Filter Dog 1 says, John Eastman has officially been disbarred per the California Supreme Court. That's stupid. That's garbage. But it's California, so I'm not surprised. Maya Tua, thank you for the can. One Thunder, thank you for the cookie. And then another cookie. And then Zeta Anand, thank you for the shades. Kicking names and taking ass, bro. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of bubblegum. One of my favorite moments from a movie. If you know, you know. Okay, guys, I am going to play Freya Knows, and I want everybody to remember that today is Freya's birthday. Happy birthday to Freya. Happy birthday to Freya. Happy birthday, dear Freya. Happy birthday to you. Okay, here it is.
Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Oh, Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Nancy Pelosi. Hup, hup, Nancy Pelosi, Freya, Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Nancy Pelosi, Freya. Yeah. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi, Freya. Freya. Nancy Pelosi. Hup, 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 hup. Hup. Nancy Freya. Good girl.
Something worse.
Good girl, Freya. Good girl, Freya. Freya knows. Even Freya knows Nancy Pelosi is a terrible person. All right, you guys. I really do appreciate you all being here. If you haven't yet, do me a favor, hit the like button. Help us out by sharing the show. You can subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, you can also join as a member over on Rumble. You can join as a member over on Pilled. You can support me on Cash App, $, Zak Paine, ZakPaine. You can also support me over on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/redpill78. All of the links to all of the sponsors are in the description of this video. Don't forget my friends over at onenessdrops.com. Oh, and of course it's not working. onenessdrops.com/BOGO, /promo/redpill78. onenessdrops.com promo BOGO Red Pill 78. The link is in the description. You will get one for everything you purchase. Buy one, get one free on the chlorine dioxide water purification kits, on the mullein extract, on the soursop extract, on the DMSO. Buy one, get one free on everything. Link is in the description. MyPillow.com. Use code RP78 to get up to 80% off of Mike Lindell's amazing American-made products. ConsciousStrength.net/RP78 to save, I believe, 10% on everything Jordan offers, which includes the methylene blue and so much more. And, of course, my friends over at rncstore.com/redpill78 for their Laetrile B17 products. Link is in the description. Codes are in the description. My friend Jessica, goallgood.com for tallow products, and the code is RP78. Everything you will find in the description below. Good luck. God bless. Thank you for being here. Let's take down the deep state. Peace. I just set up a raid over on Rumble to send everybody over to CanCon's channel because he's got an interview he's doing, and CanCon's a brother.